I guess one of us has to do it, Paul. And
you want to do it?
I don't really want to blow out my voice the way Woods does. Can you handle it for us today?
Me.
Ready? Yeah! Guttural scream on a Victory Wednesday. Good morning.
Pass out.
Good morning. Yeah, you look lightheaded over there. Good morning, everybody.
Why does he do that?
That's how Woods usually starts a post-victory morning after the Padres finally snapped their 5-game losing streak last night. Welcome to Ben and Woods, minus the Woods
hurts.
today. Yeah, you're done for the day. When we need you the most today.
Yeah.
This is a day when you're actually expected to do a ton of talking because our beloved, our one and only Stephen Woods is taking the day off for a very good reason. Woodsy taking his kids to Disneyland today. It's a Disney day, and I think it's something that every dad, every parent should do every once in a while with their children. If you live in Southern California, it's a right. It's a tradition. I feel like we would go once a year maybe when I was growing up. Hopefully on a day where you get taken out of school makes it even like 100% better. I mean, it's one thing going up to Disneyland on a weekend, which is fun. I mean, you're never going to turn that down as a kid. But there's nothing better than getting to skip a school day and going to Disneyland for the day. And that's what Woodsy's doing with Bo and Taylor this morning. So you've got two-thirds of the cast. Let's introduce our executive producer, imaging director, all-around great guy, and now co-host for the day, Paul Reindl. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
I would be Ben Higgins, and that would be your duo for the next 4 hours.
Let's get it.
As we get into it today. And I'm glad the Padres won last night, Paulie. We'll get into all the game coming up because I was kind of in a grouchy mood yesterday.
Okay.
And I, you know me, I'm not a grouchy person.
It's rare.
I don't have a lot of pet peeves. I try to just as Woods said, as I was driving away on vacation last Wednesday, I was listening to you guys 1 week ago today. And he said about Ben, he said, it's like water off a duck's back. The guy just does not let stuff get to him. And I do pride myself on that. Everybody, you've got annoying things that happen throughout the day. You can't get through life without at least 10 annoying things happening every day. And if you let all of them bother you, you're just going to be a miserable, grumpy person. So, yeah, I still have those annoying things. I just try not to let them really get to me for more than a second or two. But one thing that always bothers me, unexpected car trouble is the worst.
Oh, no.
Just the worst. And I was driving home from the show yesterday, getting off the freeway, Manchester and Encinitas, and I didn't see anything. But all of a sudden, as I'm kind of turning down the exit ramp, I just hear this boom, like I hit something, under my car. And I look in the rearview mirror, like, what was it? I still don't see anything in the road, but it was a loud noise, and immediately the emergency tire light goes on, low pressure, alert, pull over, And fortunately, I have those run flat tires, and I was able to go the extra mile and a half with my hazard lights on and get to the Discount Tire in Encinitas. Giant hole in my rear left tire.
Oh, no.
I mean, not fixable, like not like a pinprick, like a nail or anything, but there was an actual gash in my rear left tire.
What'd you hit?
Still don't know. He didn't know. He couldn't even speculate as to what it was. He goes, that is really weird. Usually these tires will stand up to something, but this is a huge blowout.
Huh.
So, of course, you've got I had to cancel my trainer that I go to on Tuesdays. Everything is completely chaos. My entire day, my plan for everything is thrown into chaos and have to wait around. Now, they did a great job, as they always do. Fortunately, I got my tires there. They were still under warranty, and they were able to fix it. I think I ended up paying like $40 total for a new tire, which is pretty cool. Because it was under warranty, so there was just some minimal charges like disposal fee and everything. But new tire right on there, and an hour and a half later, I was out of there and on with my day. But that unexpected car trouble is just absolutely the worst thing because you can never plan for it. It's always right when you just don't want it to happen. And you've got other things on your mind, more important things you want to get to, and it sets you behind, and you've got, like, the rest of the week now, I'm like going to be catching up with everything that I wanted to do yesterday that I didn't get to do.
Do smarter people when it comes to cars just never have car troubles?
I don't think so.
Like, are they able to? I mean, they do the preventative care throughout the year. Their regular oil changes.
I do too.
They check their tires, like all the. I mean, I do the maintenance stuff, like oil changes. I go and get my oil changed when it needs to be done. Outside of that, I'm not super handy when it comes to cars. So does Joe car guy out there like never have to really go to the mechanic because they just take such good care of their car ahead of time?
But like something like what happened to me yesterday, really cannot. You can't avoid it. You can't plan for it. You can't do preventative maintenance. If you have a blowout, you have a blowout. I had a.
Like, how often are you ever just driving around aimlessly to pass time? You're always going somewhere. You're going to work. You're going home
this would be a
from
great
work.
time for me to have car trouble right now because I'm really not going anywhere important.
Like, you're always it's gonna screw up your day. You're gonna be late for wherever you're going. It's awful. I hate it so much.
So I did get through it. This is like 2 weeks after I had a coolant leak and had to get that fixed. Then maybe I had not maintained my radiator properly, and that one's on me. But that they seemed like that one was pretty unexpected as well. So we don't see this problem, and it was, they fixed it. It didn't take too long, but yeah, I just the annoying unexpected car trouble does get me into a bit of a bad mood yesterday.
Yeah.
So I am glad.
Worse.
I'm glad that the Padres didn't make it worse last night in a 6-4 win over the Cincinnati Reds. It's an interesting game. We will certainly be talking about it today. We'll talk about Mike Shilt's big gamble during the game in a situation that I don't remember having ever seen in a Padres game before. Maybe other fans have, during a catcher's interference where a manager actually gets a choice to take a run off the board. And I tweeted, the comparison would be, all right, your guy just kicked a 38-yard field goal, and you took a 3-0 lead, but the defense committed an offsides penalty, and if you want to take the first down, you can have 1st and 10 at the 20 going in the red zone, but you have to take the 3 points off the board, and you're risking, of course, there's no guarantee you're going to get those points again. Now, you're still in a field goal range.
That
so
happens fairly often in the NFL.
And it makes sense because a touchdown is worth more than even 2 field goals. You feel like if you can get one touchdown every 2 possessions, it's better than getting 2 field goals. So football coaches will generally take points off the board in that situation, unless it's late in the game that 3 points wins. You're in good shape. In baseball, though, it's a very different situation, and the Padres had already squandered an opportunity earlier in the game with the bases loaded, nobody out, and they came up with 0 runs. 0 runs in that situation. And instead, he gambles with Manny Machado coming to the plate. Manny Machado was coming to the plate in the first situation, didn't get any runs. This time, it worked out very well for the San Diego Padres, and we will talk about it. We'll go through all of it this morning. We also have, I guess the other reason why you could be annoyed is, and you sent this to me, and I know a lot of Tier 1s were looking at it, the conversation about the Padres yesterday on MLB Network featuring Brian Kenny and Dan O'Dowd.
This video, dude.
Speculating
oh my God,
about not only whether the Padres should trade Fernando Tatis Jr.,
which is stupid to begin with,
but even more kind of condescendingly, more outrageously, then going, I don't know if anyone's really going to take him. You can try, but I don't think there'd be any takers out there for Fernando Tatis Jr. You'd be lucky to
find a team that would be interested in taking a Fernando Tatis Jr.
It really, in my mind, and I'll try to explain my thinking behind it. I know instinctually a lot of Padres fans are going, what? I mean, they're not going to trade Fernando Tatis Jr. They're not.
It's Fernando Tatis Jr.
But in my mind, it was one of the dumbest sports television segments I have maybe ever watched yesterday, with 2 seemingly intelligent baseball people. One, a former general manager. The other, a longtime broadcaster who has talked baseball and hosted on MLB Network now for many years, was on ESPN before that, but does seem to have a weird animosity now toward the San Diego Padres.
Oh, yeah.
There's been now a couple of instances of Brian Kenny just dumping for seemingly no reason on the San Diego Padres. And I think this goes along with it as well, because when we talk about it, it won't take, I mean, I think you all know why it would be kind of insane to even think about trading Fernando Tatis Jr. at this moment, right?
Yes.
You can kind of understand the reasons why that would be a bad move for, Eric Katsenda and Padres ownership at this moment to go, you know what we really need to do right now?
Let's shake things up.
The state of our franchise, we really need to trade Fernando Tatis Jr. And then, if you haven't heard it yet, and I'll save this part for when we discuss it a little bit later in the show. The possible trade that they threw out there as to what might make it worth it for the Padres to deal Fernando Tatis Jr. was so insanely ridiculous and insulting. I can't believe that this was a segment on actual network television.
The MLB network.
The MLB network.
Major League
like if the Golf
Baseball's-
Channel, if those guys had just started, hey, maybe the Padres should trade Tatis, I might excuse it because you don't know anything
or,
about baseball.
Beavis and Butthead in the mornings out in Cleveland or something.
Scott and Storch say, yeah, Padres should trade Tatis. Fine. You know what? You can be ignorant. We all spout off about things we don't know what we're talking about at times.
In-house, own network partners with the team and all of that, and you're just like, bro, if I'm with the Padres, if I'm in the Padres organization, I see that, I go, hey, Brian, what's your effing problem, dude? Are you insane? Are you kidding me?
I will give you a litany of reasons why that would be an insane idea at the moment. Insane. But we will. It should be a good show today. Obviously, we're going to get through without
The conversation
Woods.
starts and ends with, "Hey, you know what a no trade clause is, Brian?"
That's number one. That wasn't even brought up. Wasn't
Right.
even.
No, it never is.
Wasn't
It
even
never
brought
is
up.
brought up when these morons have this conversation seemingly once a year. It starts and ends there, and then I just like to dump on Brian Kenny because it's gotten comical.
It's a segment in which I don't know how long it was, about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Dead air would have been more intelligent if they had just gone to the the color bars and the tone for 3 minutes. You would have been a more informed, intelligent baseball fan than having listened to that conversation between Brian Kenny and Dan O'Dowd yesterday.
Yeah, 100%.
Literally. All right, that's why Ben's in a bit of a feisty, spicy mood this morning.
I like it.
But maybe that's a good thing when Woods isn't here. Someone has to bring a little feistiness and spiciness while Woods is away. So we will come back. We'll set the menu. We got guests today. It's a Big League Wednesday. We'll let you know what's coming up on the program when we come back. Kelly Danek with our first check of traffic. Then Ben and Paul off and rolling. We'll also pay off our Incorporator from yesterday with Jesse Agler. He snuck it in. Wasn't exactly
There's
the
some
proper
debate here.
definition, but that's one of Jesse's little tricks that he uses to get the Incorporator in. We will hear how he did it last night. Coming up next on 97.3 The Fan. Good morning, everybody. We're very scarred as a fan base when you feel elated. Padres actually had their opening day starter going yesterday. I know Yu Darvish had been on the injured list, so you didn't know exactly what you were going to get and how long he was going to pitch for, but Yu was outstanding for his 5 innings. The Reds, meanwhile, were going with the swingman. We know, the role that Nick Martinez played for the Padres last year, kind of this sixth starter, emergency fill-in guy. Normally, you feel really good about those matchups when your number one guy is going against their fill-in guy. Padres jumped out to a 5-0 lead yesterday. We will get into our Padres wrap-up early in the show today, coming up in our next segment on the menu. We'll talk about Mike Shilt's gamble. We'll hear from the skipper talking about that decision. Wasn't, at least in hindsight for Mike Schilt, didn't seem like it was a particularly tough decision. He'll go through the thought process of taking a run off the scoreboard and giving Manny Machado another opportunity with the bases loaded there in the bottom of the 5th inning. Coming up in our 7 o'clock hour, with Woods gone, we're going to have our friend from down the hall, John Flint from KSON, is going to come into play, take on John, and give Tier 1 one of the last chances to qualify for our monthly grand prize trip to Las Vegas. I think we should have a new prize next week, Paulie.
Yeah, we're still in the month of April, even though today is May 1st.
Yes, so through today, and then on Friday, last chance to qualify for the trip to Las Vegas. So if you haven't gotten in yet,
John, he's played a couple of times. He's pretty good.
He's not bad, but he's not
good. He knows his stuff.
He's not Woods, though.
Right.
So if you want to try to sneak in while the cat's away, the mice can try to play against John.
John is the Nick Lodolo of the building. You
didn't know.
Not super confident, not really sure what to expect, and then he can just shove up against you.
It is possible. It's possible. I don't think there's any country categories today, but he knows music other than the KSON staples. But we'll play Take on John coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. That's also when we'll get back into the Brian Kenny outrageous discussion we brought up in the open. Don't do this. And then it is a Big League Wednesday here at 7:35. We will chat with the 5-time MLB All-Star Adam Jones will be with us. In the 8 o'clock hour, Bret Boone is going to join us at 8:35. Always enjoy our conversations with Booney. He was at the Padres game with some of his fellow Padres alums over the weekend. So we'll talk about Bret's experiences, who he talked to, what he's observed from the San Diego Padres here early in the season, and specifically, the 5-game losing streak that just ended. He's been pretty positive on the Padres, what he's seen. I wonder if that's changed at all based on the last week and the struggles that the team has had. Paulie's got a Reindl report. We got some more Legion tickets to give away. I'd like to have either or both. Maybe Craig and Annie can come in for a little crossover today since we have an open chair with Woods off. So maybe in our last segment, we'll get into some conversations with Annie and Elston to wrap up the Wednesday program. But I do want to pay off our Incorporator from yesterday. Jesse Agler, voice of the Padres, joins us each and every Tuesday. And yesterday, at the end of our 8:30 conversation, I gave him the Incorporator word of the day. Here's the setup. Speaking of the ship sinking, we've got a nautical term for you today on the Incorporator. Today's word is baggy wrinkle. There it is. We said it in chorus.
Baggy wrinkle.
Baggy wrinkle.
Oh, I thought you were going to do poop deck.
No, baggy wrinkle. It's a soft covering for cables to reduce sail chafe.
Chafe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fun one.
So you don't want those ropes tearing a hole in the sail. So you put the baggy wrinkle, which is kind of like a soft material that goes around the cords to make sure that your sail stays in good shape.
We call them lines on a ship.
Oh, lines.
Oh,
you're a sailing man.
We're
I didn't know
do
you were a
terminology.
sailor.
All right, so that was the setup.
So that was definitely going to be a difficult word to incorporate into a baseball broadcast.
That's the object of the game.
Baggy wrinkle. However, Jesse has his ways. He has his tactics, and he went with a strategy yesterday. I believe this was after the 7th inning stretch.
It
yesterday.
was top of the 8th.
So this is when the Padres had actually made it that nothing happened that inning. They actually struck out, but there was a couple of questionable strike zone calls. Was it during a Ha-Sung Kim at bat? Or Tyler? Someone was up and like 3 straight balls right at the knees were all called balls. And David Bell, who is known for being a feisty manager, apparently lost his mind during the inning break, went out and got ejected. Jesse described it And this is where he chose to work in his Incorporator word. So here's the coming back for the top of the 8th inning last night.
1-0 pitch. Steer hits it hard but foul the other way out of play. He was ejected and he really got his money's worth. He was face to face with Blazer. At one point, you could see Blazer pat his chest and say, "I'm trying my best," which I guess is really all you can say if you're an umpire. 1-1 to Steer as Matsui kicks and deals. Pitch swung on and missed. Strike 2. So Bell was out there, really got his money's worth, screaming, yelling, ranting, raving. 28th career ejection for David Bell. And then walking back to the dugout, the Reds, of course, have all their weights and rosin bags and stuff on their on-deck area, and Bell kicked them like a place kicker and knocked them all over the place. They had gotten out of their baggy wrinkle, and they were just sort of all sprayed about. And quite a show put on by David Bell. 1-2 to Steer, swung on and missed. Strike 3.
Got out of their baggy wrinkle. He made it sound like that word was maybe a synonym for a
Like a bucket?
A brouhaha. No,
I thought he said he kicked like the bat weights and all the stuff in the on-deck circle.
Can you go play just the last part again? I think he was referring to the argument between David Bell and home plate umpire Corey Blazer. They got out of their baggy wrinkle.
The Reds, of course, have all their weights and rosin bags and stuff on their on-deck area, and Bell kicked them like a place kicker and knocked them all over the place. They had gotten out of their baggy wrinkle, and they were just sort of all sprayed about.
No, you're right.
And quite a show put on by David Bell.
He was referring to, like, maybe they keep it all in a big sack, a big baggy wrinkle.
Bat weights, pine tar,
where they
stuff
keep
like
all
that.
their stuff in the on-deck circle. It's a soft covering. Well, maybe that is a more accurate use of the word baggy wrinkle. I thought the funniest part of that, though, was the umpire. I can just see him with getting screamed at by a Major League Baseball manager who's been ejected close to 30 times in his career, just going, "I'm trying my best."
At one point, you could see Blazer pat his chest and say, "I'm trying my best."
I don't know if that's the
That probably makes it worse,
best
right?
tactic for an umpire. Lay off me. I'm trying my best.
Leave me alone, David. I'm trying my best.
The strange part is that at-bat ended in a strikeout. I mean, there may have been extra pitches that needed to be thrown because of all the balls that were called on pitches that looked like they were actually in the strike zone at the knees, but it did end in a strikeout. I can see a manager losing their mind if they feel like you walked that guy on bad calls, he came around to score, we're trying to come back, you're hurting us here. All it may have done was cost a relief pitcher like 2 or 3 extra pitches to get the strikeout. Is that something that is really worth losing your mind and getting ejected and possibly breaking your toe?
David Bell's a little bit of a lunatic.
Over. I mean, kicking a donut,
Well,
like
they
a
say
weighted
28
donut.
career ejections.
Yeah, kicking a weighted donut over a call which actually ended up going your team's way. The guy struck the Padres batter, and I can't remember if it was Cam or who it was, struck out at the end of that plate appearance, and he still lost his mind on the umpire in between the innings. Very odd. Jesse sneaks in baggy wrinkle, though, into the explanation there in the top of the 8th inning. All right, we'll come back. We will go through the highlights and the wherefores of last night's game. 6-4 win over the Cincinnati Reds. Great performance by Yu Darvish. Strategic decision by Mike Schilt that paid off big time in the bottom of the 5th inning. Get to that coming up next with Bennett Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Turns out, sometimes good things happen when you don't fall behind in the first inning and have to play catch-up the entire game. Padres, after having a lead for exactly one half of one inning over the previous 4 games, never trailed last night at Petco Park and finally got a home night victory. Just their second of the season, Paulie.
That's wild. Made it through the entire month and had 2 home night wins.
Right, and one of them they fell behind 8-0 and had to come from behind.
Yes.
Both of the games, interestingly enough,
What was
started
the
by Yu
win
Darvish.
probability in that one? 99.9?
99.2 or something. They were like 0.8% chance of winning that game, and they came back and won it. This one, the win probability was pretty good from the outset after the Padres took the lead in the 3rd inning. We're going to go through the highlights, the unusual situation that presented itself in the 5th inning for Mike Schilt, coming up right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Air Max, San Diego's highest-rated heating and air company. Visit them at airmax.com. Got a collision on southbound 163 before the 8. It's blocking the right lane, but watch out for some debris in the roadway. And it looks like they did clear up that crash in the North County southbound 15 El Norte Parkway, so speeds are looking better there. Looking for the best in HVAC? Choose Air Max, San Diego's highest-rated heating and air company, with free diagnostics on all repairs and estimates. See why over 1,300 happy customers have given Air Max 5-star Yelp reviews. See Air Max today at airmax.com. Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I love winning, man. I love winning. You hear what I'm saying? It's like better than losing.
Oh, my God, I'm so stiff.
Miss any of the Padres win yesterday? Ben and Woods didn't.
What up, crew?
We've got you covered with all of the highlights.
I like it when the Padres win.
Yeah! Yeah! It's the Padres Wrap-Up, presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino, fun above all else. Yeah!
Give me a do damage.
Do damage!
Now Tatis at second, 1 out. The 0-1 muscled into shallow right. India back over the shoulder, can't make the catch. Tatis got a great read, rounding third on his way. He will score. And Jake Cronenworth, an RBI single to give the Padres a 1-0 lead. 0-1 pitch, Fairchild busted in on the hands, rolls it right to third base. Wade's got it, throw to first, a little high, but Cronenworth handles it. And that's all for the Reds here in the top of the 5th inning. No runs ahead, 1 man left on base. We are midway at Petco. Yu Darvish, 5 shutout innings in his return. Bases loaded, 1 out. Here's Machado, first pitch swinging, laces it into the left center field gap. Wade has scored. Tatis has scored. Cronenworth is on his way. De La Cruz will not make a relay. A bases clearing double for Machado and a 4-0 Padre lead. Machado at second, 2 down. The 1-0 pitch. Jackson muscles it in the air to left field. Here comes Steer on the move, and he dropped it. Had it in the breadbasket and dropped it. Machado will come in and score, and Spencer Steer's nightmare in left continues. 5-0 Padres in the 5th. Here's the 0-1 pitch. India muscles it into right field. That's going to fall for a base hit. De La Cruz has scored. Steer's on his way. Fernando fires home, not in time. A 2-run single for Jonathan India. The Reds are on the board, and it's 5-2 here in the 6th. 0-1 grounded to second base. India is coming home. Bad throw, not in time. Throw to first, not in time. And the Padres lead it 6-2. Certainly looked like he was going to have a shot at Kim, but the throw was on the wrong side of home plate. Madeley then tried to throw to first base, but with Fernando's speed, no chance. 0-2 pitch, hit in the air to deep right field towards the Petco porch, and gone. A home run. 3rd of the year for Jamer Candelario. And now a 3-run game, 6-3 here in the 7th. 2-0 pitch, hit in the air to very deep center field. Jackson Merrill racing back. He's at the wall, looking up, gonna go. Home run, Stuart Fairchild. Snaps in 0 for 18 at the ditch. It's his first home run of the season. Second long ball of the inning against De Los Santos. And the Padre lead is now 6-4. Bases are empty. And Luke Mailey, the batter, swings at the first pitch, sends it in the air, straightaway center field and deep. Merrill is back on the warning track. He's got room, and he makes the catch. The ball game is over. A 1-2-3 ninth inning for Robert Suarez. The Padres stop the skid as they beat the Reds here tonight 6-4, and we will play a rubber match tomorrow afternoon.
We put it behind us, and it'll be a blip, and it'll be something we won't think about because we're going to go on and play good baseball and win series. We got a chance to do that tomorrow. But yeah, we're going to be better for it.
Mike Schultz says the 5-game losing streak will be a blip. Hopefully
hope so.
on the radar of the Padres season.
Sure.
Almost
hope
every
so.
team, maybe every team, will endure a 5-game losing streak at some point in the season. But if you want to, get to the playoffs, they do have to be blips. The New York Mets started 0-5 this year. They're already back above 500. Actually have been for a while. So it's more than possible to bounce back from 5-game losing streaks early in the season in Major League Baseball. Padres get the 6-4 win yesterday over the Cincinnati Reds. I will say, though, and we got Paulie here, Woodsy's off today, there was that feeling early in the game of here we go again when the Padres loaded the bases in the bottom of the first inning against Nick Martinez and failed to score. Jurickson Profar opened the game with a single. Mm-hmm. He's been terrific after moving to the leadoff spot, by the way.
I think we found our, at least in the interim, our new leadoff hitter.
Yeah, 3 more hits. And Padres actually went 4 for 4 from the leadoff spot because after Jose Azocar came in as a defensive replacement, he got a nice single after a long at-bat as well. So the Padres getting tons of production from the number 1 spot, but they couldn't cash in. Manny hit a kind of soft liner that Ellie De La Cruz made a nice play on at shortstop. That could have been a great start to the game, but then Xander Bogaerts hits a weak fly ball that's not nearly deep enough to score the run, and Jackson Merrill hit one decent, but it ended up just being a medium deep fly out to end the inning. So the Padres don't score in the bottom of the first inning, and as a fan, immediately going, that's going to come back to haunt them in the game. Not getting any runs in the first, but Yu Darvish came in and pitched, I think retired the first 6 batters he faced, gave up just 3 singles in 5 innings, struck out 3, was efficient, needed just 70 pitches, and knowing he was on a limited pitch count after coming back from the injured list with his neck strain, that was about as good as you could have hoped for. To get through 5 innings with a lead, which the Padres took on a Jake Cronenworth RBI bloop single in the bottom of the 3rd inning, and then Yu Darvish putting up zeros after that again. That's been a big issue for the Padres as well. When they have scored, seems like every time the other team then comes right back and answers to tie it or take the lead. Yu Darvish did not allow that in an outstanding effort off the injured list. So the Padres take that 1-0 lead from Yu into the bottom of the 5th inning. And that's where this game takes its unusual turn. Padres have runners at 2nd and 3rd with 1 out and Jake Cronenworth at the plate. He takes a swing and hits kind of a slow roller to the right side. Runner scores from 3rd, and Jake is out at first base, but he's quickly pointing backwards. Hey, something happened there. And once again, Jake, who maybe it's just the nature of how he swings and how he brings his hands through. But once again, it's catcher's interference, and the umpire is on it. Yes, points at catcher's interference and brings Mike Schultz out because there's a decision to be made. The rule in Major League Baseball states that you have the choice on catcher's interference. You can either take your base, which would be an E2, and Jake gets first base, but the runner from 3rd would not advance home on that. So he'd have to go back to 3rd base so that you could have bases loaded and 1 out, or take the outcome of the play, run in, Padres take a 2-0 lead. That's doubling your lead, but there'd be 2 outs and just a runner on 2nd base in that situation. And it doesn't take Mike Schultz very long to make the call. I want the bases loaded and 1 out. Take that run off the board, put Tyler Wade, I think it was, back at 3rd base, and give Manny Machado a chance with the bases loaded. Manny, who has not been, in a particularly hot stretch lately, had already had a chance earlier in the game with no outs and the bases loaded and didn't come through there. But it didn't take long for Mike Schultz to be proven right. First pitch off Nick Martinez. Manny Machado laces that double into the gap. All 3 runs score. Padres end up with a 4-run inning, take a 5-0 lead, and ultimately that was the difference in the game as the Padres held on for the 6-4 win. So I thought A.J. Cassavell, who we had on yesterday, He did a great job. Before the game was even over, he had run a statistical analysis and written a piece for MLB.com showing that, at least in an average situation, that you are expected to get more runs in an inning with the bases loaded and one out than you are with one run in, two outs, and a runner on second base. The difference was like 0.2 runs. With the run in, you're expected to get another 0.35, I think it was, so 1.35 runs.
Yeah, Eno summarized it,
Did it as
very
well?
similarly. He said, guy on second with two outs and one run in the bank is worth 1.3 runs.
Okay.
The one in the bank already plus 0.3 expected, and bases loaded with one out is 1.5 expected runs. So by run expectancy purely, it was the right move.
So that's not exactly why Mike Schilt. I don't think he has a calculator in his head. I think he was going more instinctually, and he just simply thought, I got bases loaded. I got Manny Machado coming up. Here's what Mike Schilt had to say after the game about the decision to take a run off a board for a team that has been struggling to score and gamble that they could get more in that inning.
Talking to TJ Lucido, you ever had the opportunity to make the decision about and then actually take a run off the board? And I'm like, no, probably won't happen again. And then I went to my Charlotte Mecklenburg public education and said, okay, let me do some math here. All right, we can take one off, which is important. We need to score runs. And then, we can have the base loaded with one out and Manny Machado. I'm going to bet on Manny Machado. So that was the bet, and, took one off and added three. So nice swing by Manny.
Good bet. As I saw earlier in our YouTube chat, maybe we should take Mike Schilt to 7 Mile Casino if he's that good at analyzing the odds on the fly and knowing what he should do in a situation like that. But instinctually, Mike Schilt was right that the Padres should be better off going with the bases loaded situation for Manny Machado. And by the way, it made a difference in his mind that it was Manny Machado up and not, say, Kyle Higashioka coming to the plate. No insult intended, Kyle, but this is Manny Machado. This is a superstar player, and that definitely, according to Mike Schilt, played into his logic.
Well, it's definitely part of it. I mean, I trust our guys, and Manny's a big part of our club, so I trust him completely, and I want our big boys up in big situations, so that was a big part of the calculus. And then after that, I was like, all right, we're out for a run with a guy at third base. No, I don't like it. Let's go ahead and load the base and get the out back. So it wasn't that challenging for me.
I was glad to hear in that first soundbite that we played from Schilt, how he goes, I'd never had this opportunity to do this. Probably never going to have it again. That tells me it really is as rare as you and I were discussing before the show. Like, have you ever seen that? I'm like, I mean, maybe it's happened and I just wasn't paying attention enough. Like, I've never seen that where an MLB manager, like, it's just usually this is the rule. Umpires letting you know, like, this is what's happening. Deal with it. You don't usually get that opportunity.
No, catcher's interference is just rare to begin with, unless you're Jake Cronenworth and it happens like once a week. But it's pretty rare to begin with. I don't know if there's another situation where you actually get a choice as the manager. Is I would like this outcome or this outcome. It's, as I said earlier, that's very football-esque, where a penalty flag is thrown, and you have the opportunity to take the result of the play or go back and replay the down with the yardage. And they do sometimes take points off the board. A field goal is good, but now you've got a chance to go for a touchdown and get a first down, and coaches will take those points off the board. Have not seen that in baseball before, but the gamble definitely paid off. Think about it this way. Had the Padres taken the run, they're up 2-0. Even if Manny Machado comes up, still doubles with 2 outs and makes it 3-0 with an RBI double, the next batter, Xander Bogaerts, made an out. So that's it. Instead of a 4-run inning and a 5-0 lead, it's a 2-run inning and a 3-0 lead. How many did the Padres win by? 2 runs in the end of the game. That's the difference. That decision is the difference in the game right there. So credit to Mike Schilt for going with his gut. And his gut not only being right, but also being statistically and mathematically correct in that situation. A couple other observations from the game yesterday.
Good to have you back.
It was great to have you, Darvish, back. The Reds gave away a lot of opportunities to the Padres. You can't count on that every day. Their defense, they committed 3 errors I count another at least play or two, like the Tatis double in the third inning that was kind of at the very worst should have been a single if they had played that right, but a dive by, I think, Steer got past him. He also lost that ball in the lights that turned into the Jackson Merrill RBI to wrap up that 4-run
he was in the blender yesterday.
Fifth inning. The Cincinnati Reds did not play good defense. The Padres played a much cleaner game yesterday, and in that sense, definitely deserved to win that game. Maybe by more than they did. But
bro, when a team is scuffling like the Padres have for the last week, like you absolutely have to capitalize when a team is giving you mistakes like that.
And they did just enough. Was a little frustrating. It felt like the Padres bullpen has been really good at protecting 3-4 run deficits the last few days. Hey, yeah, the starters put them in a bad situation, but the bullpen held them right there until they eventually lost the game at the end. They're finally given a lead, and a significant one at 5-0 and then 6-2. And Adrian Morejon, who had been untouchable, gives up 2 runs. Enyel De Los Santos, who had been untouchable, gives up 2 home runs. And you're going, you could have done this all the other games when you were going to lose anyway, where you were already down big, but you finally get a lead from your offense, and the bullpen makes it nervous time in the last couple of innings. Credit to Robert Suarez for coming in the 1-2-3 ninth inning. Didn't dominate with his strikeouts, but got his 10th save. And the Padres do end that losing streak at 5 and have a chance for another series win. I think if they win today's game, the Padres will be 4-1-1 in their last 6 series. For a team that feels like they're in a big rut,
Right.
You don't usually say, oh, yeah, Padres been struggling the last few weeks. Oh, they've also won 4 of 6 series. They tied the other one in Colorado, and they lost the one to the Philadelphia Phillies. The problem is that you're not sweeping any of the series you win, and you got swept in the series you lose. That's why the Padres need to go on their own winning streak. They need to sweep a series at some point. Obviously, it's not going to happen today against the Cincinnati Reds, but you want the series victory and head off to Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks this weekend when you get back out on the road.
Well, speaking of that bullpen that you were just talking about, there was a move made before yesterday's game, activating Yu Darvish, and we had talked about it yesterday. Tom Costgrove optioned down to El Paso.
Yeah, Mike Schilt did say this is probably a temporary short-term move to just allow Tom Cosgrove to try to sharpen up a little bit, get a little more command on the breaking balls that have not been as effective this season as they were last year. They're going to need Tom Cosgrove back at some point, and I don't expect him to be in AAA for a long time, but he was he had just been used, made sense to send him down. He's got options. Go down, maybe a relief appearance or 2 at AAA. Hopefully he'll get locked into where he was last year, but that move made sense. A lot of people thought, why not the Rule 5 guy? Why not Stephen Kolek and just finish with it? At this point, I have no problem with Tom Cosgrove getting a couple of opportunities at AAA before he comes back. Last thought on the game yesterday. Attendance, 36,769. Didn't look quite as crowded at the beginning. Obviously, there was no giveaway, no beanie or anything, but that's still, for a team on a 5-game losing streak, pretty impressive, Padres fans. You are still showing up and give you a pat on the back. That is very impressive for a Tuesday night with no giveaway. Cincinnati Reds in town. It's not like it's the Dodgers or anything. Good job by Padres fans at Petco Park. All right, we'll come back. Brian Kenny in the crosshairs on MLB Network next on Ben and Woods. I totally understand the concept of having to fill some time. We have to fill 4 hours every single day. It's even harder when Woods isn't here. Welcome back. It's Ben and Paul on a Wednesday morning here on 97.3 The Fan. We're going to play Take on John in just a couple of minutes. If you want to battle John Flynn and qualify for Las Vegas, get online now and just stay on hold because Paulie and I are going to be distracted by this conversation about Brian Kenny, Dan O'Dowd, and MLB Network for the next couple of minutes, and you'll just be sitting there. And then when John comes over, it'll be time to play, and we'll go, we need a contestant. You'll already be there. So call 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Stay on hold, and we'll have a contestant lined up when John comes over to play our game. But I want to get into this this segment that popped up yesterday discussing the San Diego Padres. And the topic was basically, we've talked about the fact that the Padres are really locked in with some of these long-term contracts. You're not going to trade Manny Machado or Xander Bogaerts. Even if you wanted to, they have no trade clauses. Their contracts right now are probably not, that appealing to another team. You'd probably have to attach prospects to do that. But you're not going to. You're just going to ride with the guys that you signed and just hope that they end up playing the way you expect them to play. And I think that was kind of acknowledged by everybody. However, they started discussing the possibility of whether the Padres could or would trade Fernando Tatis Jr. And let's play some of this audio because it's almost instinctually it felt very insane to me. And then as they started discussing it, it got even crazier and crazier and worse and worse. So here's Brian Kenny and Dan O'Dowd yesterday on MLB Network.
Disagree, evidently, because I thought the Padres are kind of locked into their deal. They can't do a rebuild because they have these unmovable contracts. They just did an extension with Machado. Obviously, they just signed Bogaerts, and including Fernando Tatis's contract. You disagree?
Well, I don't disagree in the sense the Machado, Bogaerts.
But Tatis?
Specifically Tatis, I do think he's movable, BK, for a couple different reasons. Number one, he's 25 years old. You can look at 4 contracts in the game that were moved. Stanton, Cano, Arenado, Fielder, large money contracts, all aged 28 through 30. He's only 25 years old. 2, he's a premium defender at a particular position, which is right field, won a Gold Glove.
It's not the particular position you want, though.
No, okay, but let me just finish my arguments here.
Okay, go ahead.
Before you blow them up.
Okay, go ahead.
And he is, even in what you might consider a down year compared to his past year, he was an F-WAR was 4.2. So my assumption is he's going to be that kind of player, which is a 4 to 5 WAR player per year. I've identified pretty much like 9 clubs that I think that he's movable to because I think he brings something that's hard to find with our game, which is power, right-handed power, premium position, which is right field of the outfield positions, and speed and durability. And so I do think he's movable because I think he fills a niche. It's 28. His AED on his deal starting next year is 28.1. I'm assuming you're going to have to take some money back. It's going to end up somewhere in that low 20 area. So I do think it's of the contracts that they have, I do think he is a movable.
I just completely disagree with you and you're laying out things, and yet you're seeing it through a certain prism that kind of warps things. One, the money that's owed. Here's what I'm a GM. I'm looking at it. I'm worried about paying Fernando Tatis, age 30 to age 35, to the tune of $36 million a year. So it's backloaded. That's the problem. Is that the contract's backloaded? Well, smart for the club, but not smart for the team that would be trading for him. Take a look at his numbers before his drug suspension and after his drug suspension. And this is a real-world issue that you must confront. Before he was suspended.
Pause it for a second, because Brian Kenny's going to go through the fact that Fernando Tatis Jr. last season, coming off an entirely missed year, didn't quite put up the same numbers he did before, which doesn't even explain, the fact that, yes, somewhat they're going to be a little rusty. He knew that he wasn't going to have his best season going into last year. The idea, though, that they're having this discussion that the Padres, they can't trade Manny or Bogaerts, but to rebuild, maybe they'll trade Tatis, is just so nuts that I couldn't fathom why they're talking about it. I think Dan O'Dowd is right. I think absolutely another team would be very interested in Fernando Tatis Jr. Brian Kenny, the idea, though, that his salary is too much when there are so many other players who are making a ton and don't have anywhere near the potential, the superstar capability of Fernando Tatis Jr. I think there's 29 other teams that would jump at the possibility, but there's no chance that the Padres are going to make that deal right now, Paulie, correct? No chance that the Padres would even discuss that.
I don't think it's even a conversation.
He's your most popular player. He's beloved in San Diego. You're filling your ballpark every single night, largely with fans that are coming out to see him. It makes zero sense that you would discuss the possibility of the trade. And then when they brought up what you maybe would get for him, Nick Castellanos and a pitching prospect from the Phillies for Fernando Tatis Jr., this conversation then delved into the realm of complete insanity yesterday. I saw people tweeting Petco Park would burn down if they traded Fernando Tatis Jr. You would undo, and I would assume the Padres know this, that Eric Katsenda and Eric Grupner and AJ Preller know. All the goodwill that you have built by investing in your roster the last few years, trying to win, trying to change the image of the San Diego Padres, all of that goodwill is instantly torpedoed.
Gone.
The second you fire sale Fernando Tatis Jr. for an aging Nick Castellanos and a pitching prospect, it's over. It's over. We're sitting on the flagship station. If they did that trade, I would tell you, there's no point in going to Padres games for the next 10 years anymore.
Yeah.
If this is
they
the
have
strategy,
thrown in the towel.
If they want to save $28 million a year by giving away Fernando Tatis Jr. for absolutely no baseball reasons, then there's no point in even going to games anymore. That would be an insane thing for the San Diego Padres to do. Yet they had this conversation as though it was some rational discussion, right, that it was some smart baseball insight about talking about a possibility of a Fernando Tatis Jr. trade. It makes no sense. And of course, as you pointed out earlier, he has a no-trade clause in his contract anyway. So if he didn't want to go somewhere else, you wouldn't even be able to start that conversation anywhere else. It was mind-blowing that they were discussing this on MLB Network yesterday.
So Adam sent over a picture, like he was watching this live on MLB Network, and he took a picture of the screen, and it said, should the Padres trade Tatis, or is Tatis Jr. tradable, or whatever it said for the caption. And I go, not again, Brian Kenny. I don't even want this video to surface. I don't want to hear how stupid this is going to be. And sure enough, a couple hours later, see the video going around, and I could not believe that this was something that MLB Network hosts, producers, directors thought, yeah, let's run with this. This is a good segment right here. This will be a good talker. And then the points that they make are just so bad. I don't know what Brian Kenny's issue is. I know he's a Mets fan. He's still very butthurt about what happened in 2022.
Remember, he directly accused Joe. He doesn't even accuse of Joe Musgrove of cheating. He just said, well, obviously Joe Musgrove was cheating and got away with it. He didn't even...
Like, they asked him point blank, like, so you think he was cheating? And he goes, yeah.
Even though the umpires went out and checked everything and said, no, we're fine.
Yeah, they gave him a cavity search right there on the field.
Brian Kenny knows better than anybody. The umpires that were standing there and said, no, Joe's good, they don't know anything. Brian Kenny knows everything about the San Diego Padres. I'm too upset about this to go on. We can take some calls about it a little bit later. But that was one of the most ridiculous sports segments.
There's still more audio
that I've seen.
It gets worse.
We'll save the audio. I want to play Take on John. He's going to be over here in about 1 minute. So let's get to our contestant and get to our game for today, and we'll come back to that insane topic a little bit later. Take on What's brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. It only takes 15 minutes. You don't have to get out of your car. For directions and discounts, go to SoCalOilChange.com. That's SoCalOilChange.com. James, I appreciate you calling in and being our contestant for Take on John today. How are you?
Good. Good morning, guys.
All right. We'll give you a chance here to qualify for that getaway to the Westgate, Las Vegas. 2 nights, tickets to Kool and the Gang. You can get your own tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Check out the $70 million in room renovations at the home of legendary Vegas fun. All right. Here are your categories today to go up against John Flint. We've got On the Money, 5 song titles and artists that include the word money. We've got our all 2-second song category, Song and Dance, 80s edition. Those are song titles with the word dance in them from the 80s. And our new category is called the Tortured Poets Department. Yes, it is about Taylor Swift's new album, but I will say that you don't actually need to have any musical knowledge necessarily to get that category and get some of the questions right. So, James, on the money, Song and Dance, or the Tortured Poets Department, what would you like to play?
I would take On the Money.
On the money. All right, you have 5 questions and 60 seconds to name song titles and artists with the word money in all 5 of them. If you don't know an answer, say pass. We'll come back to it if there's time left on the clock. First questions are 2-second song. Give us the title and the artist to score that point, and we'll go on from there. James, are you ready to play?
Ready to go.
All right, category on the money, 60 seconds on the clock. Your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck, James. Let's take on...
1 second.
Oh, hang on.
Cue up this
song.
2-second song
All right.
here.
60 seconds on the clock. Your time begins again when Paul plays the music. Good luck, James. Let's take on John.
Let's take the money and run by Steve Miller Band.
Correct. Which Dire Straits song was the very first to air on MTV Europe? The backing chorus of I Want My MTV probably didn't hurt their chances.
Money for Nothing.
Correct. Posthumously released, which Notorious B.I.G. hit includes a sample of Diana Ross's I'm Coming Out.
More money, more problems.
Correct. Which American singer-songwriter had hits in the 70s and 80s, including Baby Hold On and Take Me Home Tonight?
Eddie Money.
Correct. Which 1978 song by Warren Zevon is about a guy hiding out from the Russian mob in Havana and Honduras? A few seconds left.
Don't know that one.
That's all right. That's not bad. It's the score of 4 there on the money. The one you didn't get was Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Always tough at the end. You did get the first 4. Take the Money and Run by Steve Miller Band. Money for Nothing. Mo Money, More Problems, and Eddie Money. All right, hang on the line there, James. We'll see if John Flint is good to go. Have you seen him yet, or is he? He's going to go. Okay, Paulie's going to go retrieve John from down the hall. He's our morning show host at KSON, John and Tammy, and he is just like 3 studios away. So everybody be patient with Woods. He's played a couple of times before, and as Paulie said, he's pretty decent. I mean, no one's quite Woods when it comes to this game, but he definitely knows his music and he knows his stuff. So, all right, here he comes. Paulie says he's got him, so he's coming in. I will explain the rules once more for John just to refresh how the game works. 60 seconds, 5 questions, and we'll compare scores. And if John beats James, nothing happens. If James beats John or ties John, he will qualify for the trip to Las Vegas and the tickets to Cool and the Gang. Yes, we're having fun right now. All right, that's fine.
He had forgotten.
The old...
But he's on his way.
I said I was going to come over, but I did forget. Well, he's got his own show to worry about. I mean, I'd probably forget the same sort of thing. So, well, just, it's not like this is live radio or anything. Thank you.
He is running.
Right. That's all right. You made it. All right, you made it just in time.
I'm sorry.
All right, that's okay. James's score is locked in. Get your head straight, though, because this is not an easy game.
I know it's not. I take this very seriously.
I know you do.
James is the guy I'm taking
you're playing. James has played. The category is on the money.
On the money.
So we've got 5 song titles and artists, and every one of them includes the word money. So if you don't know one, you can pass. We can come back to it if there's time left on the clock.
Am I allowed to know how James did?
He got 4 right. If you want to know.
Okay.
Usually we don't tell Woods, but you're a guest.
Yes,
so,
and I'm not that
so
bright.
don't make
We
any
don't even
mistakes.
tell Woods the category.
The only way to win is if you get them all right. All right,
Okay.
so the first question's the 2-second song. Paulie plays a short clip. You need to give me the title and the artist.
Go ahead.
60 seconds on the clock. Category on the money. John, your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck. Let's take on James.
That is Take the Money and Run, the Steve Miller Band.
Correct. Which Dire Straits song was the very first to air on MTV Europe? The backing chorus of I Want My MTV probably didn't hurt their chances.
Money for Nothing.
Correct. Posthumously released, which Notorious B.I.G. hit, includes a sample of Diana Ross's I'm Coming Out.
More Money, More Problems.
Correct. Which American singer-songwriter had hits in the 70s and 80s, including Baby Hold On and Take Me Home Tonight?
Eddie Money.
Correct. Which 1978 song by Warren Zevon is about a guy hiding out from the Russian mob in Havana and Honduras?
I'm going to take Lawyers, Guns, and Money
And
for the
that is
win,
a
baby.
5 for 5
Wow.
guest starring appearance.
Thank you.
Take
Sorry,
on
James.
John James. Close, but
Well
no
done.
cigar.
And
That
you
was the one he didn't get, was Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
You know what? I'm not even on my game today. I kind of phoned
You
it
forgot-
in.
Yeah, I mean, you were late, you forgot, you still came in and got a 5 for 5. That was very impressive.
I hardly forgot. I do have a job to do here
I
as
said
well.
that.
Okay.
I
Thank
said
you,
they're
guys.
hosting their own show. Thank you,
Can
John.
I
You
hang
may-
for a while or not?
Please. Well, we're going to break,
Absolutely.
so, but
Okay.
feel free to hang for a while.
Come back in 5 minutes.
We're going to come back and do Don't Do This.
I'm very sorry I was late.
That's okay.
It's all
That's
good.
our first Don't Do This of the day. No, thank you. That's a Do This. John taking some time out from his busy show to help us out today. James, thank you for playing. We'll have a real or fake game tomorrow and one more chance to qualify for Vegas on Friday this week. All right, we'll come back. Don't Do This is up next. We got some cheating in college baseball. And we have actually a pretty terrific Do This from the Milwaukee Brewers game. It wasn't that big brawl. It was actually a different moment from the Milwaukee Brewers game last night. We'll get to all of that coming up next after a check of traffic. It's Ben Woods and Paul on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I'm still shaking my head about Brian Kenny. We have even more audio on that we're going to play in a little while. If you want to get online, you can. 833-288-0973. First, though, Don't Do This is brought to you by the Craft Taco in Sorrento Valley. The Craft Taco has some of the best quality tacos in all of San Diego. Go to thecrafttaco.com. Take a look at their happy hour specials today. Thecrafttaco.com. I will start Don't Do This today, Paulie, with a story from college baseball where social media videos of Georgia pitcher Christian Maracna, and he's in the bullpen, and it's visual, but you see clips of him basically working with the ball and his glove and putting, like, you can see him like reaching in to put some stuff into his glove. It seems fairly obvious that he's loading up the ball with some sort of illicit substance. Went in, got the final 6 outs, I believe, of a game against Texas A&M to get a save and a 5-4 win in College Station. And, of course, the video has gone viral. And, this guy is cheating. He's doctoring up the baseball. I'm surprised that it's made national headlines, though. This is, to me, still not uncommon, right, in baseball? I mean, I've got to imagine that there are still major league pitchers who are trying to get away with it. No one gets checked more closely now than major league pitchers. As they come into the game, umpires will check their hands, their glove. As they leave the game, umpires will check them. And yet I still think there are big league pitchers who are trying to get away with it. Robert Suarez got suspended 10 games last year, remember, for illicit substance. It's still going on in Major League Baseball. So clearly in the college level, where I'm sure there is less checking and less enforcement, and they don't suspend them. You get ejected if they find a foreign substance like in the old days. Yeah, there's guys who are still going to do it if they think it gives them an advantage.
See what they can get away with.
Yeah, I don't think this is a huge story. It's gone viral. Like, Georgia, this is so outrageous that a pitcher would be loading up a baseball. I like the reaction from Texas A&M's coach, who said, it certainly appears that way. He saw the video. Looks like he's cheating. It's part of the game. Wish we would have caught it. Yeah, I mean, that's how you handle it. If you think a guy is loading up the baseball as the opposing manager, you go to the umpire, hey, go check him. And you check him, and he finds something, and you get ejected. Like the old Emery board in the pocket trick. Oh, it wasn't me. What? That's how it used to be handled. And if you think a guy is doctoring the ball, have him go check. If you're wrong, well, that reflects poorly on you. That just means you can't hit the guy, and they didn't find anything. But
you look like Buck Showalter, Brian.
Exactly. You look like Buck Showalter. But I don't think it's necessarily the crime that people are making it out to be, putting something on the baseball. It's against the rules. But in every sport, you try to get away with things that are against the rules sometimes. Holding is against the rules.
Ben Higgins advocating for cheating. I like
it.
I like
it. I mean, you get caught, you suffer the consequences. The consequences in Major League Baseball are pretty severe now with a 10-game suspension. Probably will deter a lot of guys from trying it because you don't want to be suspended for 10 games. You get salary docked and everything. But in college baseball, why wouldn't you be trying it? If no one's going to check you and you feel like you get an advantage, I'm surprised that we don't see more of this.
What's the old saying? If you're not cheating, you're not
trying. Yeah, kind of.
All right, this is kind of a hybrid don't and do this. The don't do this is that anytime a Major League Baseball game or any sporting event has a 2-hour delay, it's not even about the weather. That's probably the don't do this.
Tuesday night in Arizona, inside, sitting there waiting for the Diamondbacks-Dodgers games to start. That's definitely a don't do this.
Yeah, so yesterday at Chase Field in Arizona, Dodgers and Diamondbacks, right about 5 minutes before first pitch, they noticed some bees were buzzing around behind home plate, and there was a beehive coming into
it formed right at the top of the netting behind home plate.
Starting to form.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't there previously because they would have seen that and they would have seen all the bees.
Right.
They just swarmed to the top of the netting, and this happened at Petco Park.
2009.
No, it was earlier or recently than that.
I know. I was looking it up, and it definitely happened in 2009. I feel like it happened twice, though.
There was another one 6 years ago.
Yeah, I think it happened twice.
And you got to call a beekeeper, which I'm like, do teams have beekeepers and exterminators on speed dial? Are they contracted out and are they flipping through, looking on Google? All right, who's closest? We got to get somebody down here.
Remember the yellow pages?
Yes.
You'd have to go through the yellow pages to find professionals, service people that you needed, and you had no idea. There was just like an ad there, like, all right, let's go with the A's and then the B's. Yeah, beekeeper.
I would start with
Here we go.
B,
Beekeeper.
So took 2 hours. They finally got the bees taken care of. The bees were not killed. They were
safely
treated
relocated
with a non-pesticidal solution and taken off of
like
the field,
vacuumed up, and then released somewhere else.
Yes. And the do this here is, I thought it was really cool. They were playing like "I Need a Hero" in the background as he was getting the bees down. And
he was into it. He was egging the crowd on. He was like, I don't think he gets a lot of cheers in his profession most of the time.
It became a total show, and the fans treated the beekeeper very well, and the Diamondbacks themselves even let him throw out the first pitch once he finally got everything taken care of. I don't know who was already scheduled to throw out the first pitch that night, but
someone who left probably 2 hours ago.
They got bumped.
First pitch, hey, I guess if we're not going to do this, I'm leaving.
I got places to go.
So, Miley in the chat says the beekeeper was hot, LOL. I didn't notice that, but I guess a good-looking beekeeper as well. And by the way, Diamondbacks did win that game in extra innings on a Christian Walker walk-off home run against the Dodgers. Off, Nabil Chrismat gave up the winner for the Dodgers.
Tough scene.
Well, I mean, he's actually has like a 2-something ERA, but you just realize that the Dodgers, for as much as they spent on their team, they're not a complete roster entirely yet. All right, finally, do this. Our actual do this
mega do
goes to the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, there was a huge brawl in the game last night. I don't know if that's a do or a don't do this for most people against the Tampa Bay Rays, but the do this moment came from rookie Tyler Black. Got called up to make his major league debut. Came in as a pinch runner after an injury, and then got to have his first major league at bat. Well, as is often the case, his parents were in attendance, and his dad happens to be a former big league broadcaster, Canadian announcer Rod Black, who called games for the Toronto Blue Jays from 2002 to 2009. So,
see, when this first was going around yesterday, I thought the father was on the call. The booth.
He wasn't in the booth
calling the game. No, he was just in the stands.
He was in the stands, and their sideline reporter was down there interviewing him.
Right. Like you've seen Scanlon or Annie, like they'll track down family members when there's a big moment. Like I remember like Camarena's grand slam. They went and saw the whole family was sitting there, and you go in between innings and they talk to them and they play it on the broadcast. You see that all the time.
But the timing worked out perfectly because Tyler comes to the plate. They're interviewing Dad, the former broadcaster Rod, in the stands while it's happening.
MLB debut.
And this is what happened.
He's a baller. He's been a baseballer since he's been a kid, and that's all he's done is hit. I think hand-eye from hockey also helps. There's a base hit to right field for my boy, Tyler Black. Woo! There you go. Oh, there you go. 2 for 2. Happy birthday, Nancy.
So that wasn't the actual game announcer. He slipped like into announcer voice,
right? Yes,
and called it himself because he was being interviewed. And there's a base hit for my boy Tyler Black.
That's so cool.
Which is such a great moment.
Hearing that back again. I mean, I'll play the first part again. You can hear him. He goes from dad
to broadcaster,
being featured on camera mode to broadcaster mode real quick.
He's a baller. He's been a baseballer since he's been a kid, and that's all he's done is hit. I think hand-eye from hockey also helps.
Broadcaster.
There's a base hit to right field for my boy, Tyler Black.
That's so cool.
So awesome. Congratulations to the Black family and Rod Black for owning the moment there when his son gets his first major league base hit.
Oh, God, I have actual chills right now. That was so cool.
That is don't and do this for a Wednesday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Brian Kenny some more. It may be with Adam Jones if he calls in. We're not sure. We may push him back. Either way, we'll continue our discussion about the idea of trading Fernando Tatis Jr. that went over like a lead balloon among the Padres fan base from MLB
Network. I want to hear
Network.
from guys like Adam Jones and Bret Boone, who we have on the show today, and just be like, When did you ever hear like a national host, a talk show, a talking head, like say something so asinine about you that you like, ooh, how did you react?
I like that. I like that idea. So we've got that coming up next. It's Ben and Paul on a Wednesday on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. You already know we're the official home of the Padres. Be sure to catch us all season long, wherever the season takes you. With the Odyssey app, listen to us react to the biggest moments from throughout the season. Plus, be sure to listen to live local play-by-play for every Padres game. Download the Odyssey app today. Search 97.3 The Fan to get started. Local blackouts apply. Still smiling at that do this with Tyler Black getting his first hit and his dad, Rob, getting to call it as he was being interviewed on the Brewers broadcast. That game did, as I mentioned, feature like a real baseball brawl.
Yeah.
Padres had one, was it earlier this year against the Dodgers when everyone just emptied out of the dugout for a second?
Yeah.
No one did anything. They
bench
just
clearing.
The majority of baseball benches clearing brawls really aren't fights.
If they even get to the point where there's like a little bit of pushing and shoving, you sometimes see that, but you don't usually see like punches being thrown and landing.
This one actually was had some punches. It was the 8th inning last night. Jose Siri of the Tampa Bay Rays grounded out against Brewers pitcher Abner Uribe to lead off the inning. Uribe and Siri exchanged words near first base. Things very quickly escalated. The umpire saw it happening, like tried to jump in, and they were like, doesn't matter.
He got hit for a second.
Doesn't matter that the umpire's there. They just started absolutely like throwing. I don't know if anyone totally connected with a punch, but they were definitely throwing real punches. Now, I think Siri had gotten thrown at or hit earlier. So he hit a home run off Freddie Peralta.
Yeah.
Peralta then drilled him with a 3-0 fastball in the 6th inning, which is, if you're a batter and you've already been thrown 3 balls, that's like a free, if you're going to walk him anyway and you drill him, that's a message being sent. So you had that, and then when Siri grounded out and said something, that's what escalated and turned it into a real benches clearing brawl in the game last night. Now, it did end pretty quickly. I didn't see anyone else totally throwing. It was mostly just the 2 main participants who were throwing the punches, but probably the biggest one I've seen so far this season in Major League Baseball. All right, we're going to check traffic. When we come back, I would love to hear from you. We're going to play some more of the audio from the insane segment on MLB Network yesterday with Brian Kenny and Dan O'Dowd trying to explain why, first of all, the Padres should trade Fernando Tatis Jr., and then Brian Kenny trying to explain why, well, they couldn't possibly do that. No one in their right mind would take on Fernando Tatis Jr. in Major League Baseball. That was an actual take that was given yesterday on MLB Network. We'll get to that after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by the Fish Market, serving the freshest catches from waters near, far, and everywhere in between. Just a couple problems here. One of them is a stalled vehicle in the center divide on southbound 5, just past the 52, and in the North County, westbound 78, just past Broadway. Collision involving a couple of vehicles. No details as to whether that's blocking lanes. Fresh wild Alaskan halibut season is in full swing. Enjoy it perfectly grilled at the Fish Market, and then grab an extra piece to cook yourself from the market on your way out. The Fish Market, locations downtown and Del Mar. The Fish Market, serving and offering only the freshest catches. And Kelly Danick with Ben and Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Real quick, Benny, talking about brawls in baseball, it's always my favorite thing, seeing the bullpens like jogging in after everything's already been settled, the dust is cleared. You know what I want to see? I want to see the bullpens just, instead of jogging like together from the outfield in, I want to see them just going at it in the outfield,
Their
like,
own
on the
brawl.
warning track.
Like a separate brawl.
Yeah. Or like, how about this? Think about Petco Park where the bullpens are. The visiting bullpen is just right up above and behind the Padres bullpen. They're very close.
Isn't the Padres bullpen the top one?
I don't know, maybe.
I think it's because you get a better view, so they put the Padres on top.
My point remains,
Yes.
they're very close together. What if like bullpen pitchers just started jawing at each other and they just started brawling in the middle of the game?
I agree.
Would everybody from the dugout have to run to the bullpen like the bullpen does
They
when
should.
there's a brawl at home plate?
They should. I want to see like
Graham Pauley's like, oh,
the visiting
crap, I gotta
relief
run all the
pitchers
way
trying
over
to climb the wall up to the Padres bullpen to like get at them because
Yeah.
they're so mad.
That's what I want.
That would be a crazy benches clearing brawl, and then everyone has to run out from the dugout all the way to the bullpens.
It's the most half-assed jog from the bullpens.
No one. Hopefully, if I go slow enough, by the time
this
I get there,
crap
it'll be
better be done
over,
by the
is
time I
what
get
they're
there.
all hoping for sure. All right, let me get you caught up to speed. We played earlier this hour the start of the audio between Dan O'Dowd and Brian Kenny on MLB Network yesterday when they were discussing the possibility. Padres struggling. They've lost five in a row, and it's April. So, of course, let's talk about rebuilding the roster, even though all the stars are locked up for the next decade. Let's talk about rebuilding the roster. And Dan O'Dowd had the point, well, probably not going to be able to trade Manny Machado or Xander Bogaerts right now. Those are big contracts and, not a lot of takers. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. They also all have no trade clauses, so you can't even start that discussion. But then they went on to the insane side where Dan O'Dowd said they probably could trade Fernando Tatis Jr. if they wanted. There would be some teams that would be interested. He said 8
there's
or 9.
about 29 teams.
I think it's 29. Then Brian Kenny countered with the even more insane take. There's not a single team in baseball that would be interested in Fernando Tatis Jr. Even if the Padres ate some salary, even if they didn't ask for much in return, Fernando Tatis Jr. is like nuclear waste in Major League Baseball, which is ridiculous. But he went through the argument. He started to go through the numbers. Well, look at the numbers since his suspension, that they're not as good as they were beforehand. Not even mentioning the fact that, of course, last year, he started 20 games late. He hadn't played in a year. He was still trying to get healthy post-surgery and still ended up having almost 5-WAR season, playing a new position, which he was the Platinum Glove winner at last year, and still put up a 5-WAR season. To me, he was a superstar player that didn't even have a great year last year. That's the kind of player that has the most value in Major League Baseball in my mind. Here's some more of the audio from Brian Kenny and Dan O'Dowd yesterday on MLB Network.
Also, he's not playing shortstop, so you're saying, yeah, he had outrageous defensive metrics, but in right field. And so far this year, you know what his defensive metrics are? 0 and 0. So to think he's going to be a plus 27 the way it was last year, look, he adjusted to right field great. He deserves credit for that. But right now, those numbers are not going to hold. Even if he's a plus fielder in right field, and he's hitting to the tune of a 112, not playing shortstop, $36 million a year? Yeah. No, thank you.
Well, I can't argue with you, and I won't. There's age regression built into that. I'm not sure I'm concerned about the age 30, 31, 32. 33 on it's a little bit problematic without a shadow of a doubt.
I don't know who he is, though, here. That's the basic thing.
I'm just
who
saying
is
to
he
you,
exactly?
Okay, I'm saying to you, worst case scenario for me, he's a 4-WAR player. If you want to take $8 million a year as a 4-WAR player, that's $32 million a year, kind of almost around where his contract
I've never
is.
bought that number, though, as far as how much.
Okay, I'm just saying, from a mythology standpoint, I don't think the contract is grossly overstated from what his value could be as a 4-WAR player. I'll ask you this question.
Yeah.
Right now, if the Padres called the Phillies and said, we'll trade Fernando Tatis to you for Nick Castellanos and a young pitching prospect, would you make that deal?
Are you kidding me?
I wouldn't take him under most any circumstances, even though Castellanos is not hitting at all. And would I want more pitching? I wouldn't want $36 million a year starting 4 years from now.
Okay. The Phillies would say yes so fast to that deal, your head would spin. Nick Castellanos and a pitching prospect for Fernando Tatis Jr. And these guys think that the Phillies would say no to that? That would be the most lopsided, bad trade in the history of baseball by the San Diego Padres. They think the Phillies would turn that down.
The fact that Brian Kenny thinks that the team would turn that trade down, that should be fireable. Like, you should not be able to host shows on MLB Network if you're that stupid.
Because that's when you'll be really paying the price, especially if he never hits.
Okay.
No.
Every contract is movable then if the issue only comes down to money.
Really?
What would you take? What would you take Tatis out then?
How many clubs do you think would say yes to Tatis right now?
All of them. Right now, I think there's 7 or 8 would say yes to Tatis.
No. See, I'm thinking it's more like 1 to 0.
Oh my God, dude! I'm angry all over again now. I cannot believe that.
What is not addressed, and I'm going to try to be as rational as I can here. Do I think that Fernando Tatis Jr. is guaranteed to win 5 MVP awards? I have no idea what ultimately his career is going to look like in the end. But to act as though Fernando Tatis Jr. is the one who's overpaid when there are so many players who are making in that price range now. And by the way, given the economics of how baseball works, they're only going to be making more.
Right.
Free agents, you want to sign a free agent in 5 years that has the talent of Fernando Tatis Jr., guess what? $50 million a year.
Yeah, Tatis's contract is going to be a bargain.
It's going to look absolutely like a steal, I think, by the time it is over. And then to act like Yeah, well, we don't want to take a prime Fernando Tatis Jr. for the next 8 years because in that 9th and 10th year, he might be a little past his prime. No one is going to care. They're going to be over the moon to have a in his prime Fernando Tatis Jr. at age 25 now, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, even as Dan O'Dowd said, not worried about 31, 32. He should still be one of the best players and most dangerous players in baseball for at least the next 7 to 9 years. So, yes, is it possible by the last couple of years there will be some sort of decline? Of course. Would that stop any team from making a trade for Fernando Tatis Jr. right now? No, it would not. It would not. I don't understand what that conversation was about other than pointlessly filling a couple of minutes of television time and hoping that no one's really paying attention to how dumb you sound when you're talking about that 0 or 1 team would be interested in Fernando Tatis Jr. Believe me, there's no GM in baseball that is dumb enough to even call and ask AJ about it right now because they know. They know that AJ, there's no chance, first of all, as I said earlier, Fernando Tatis Jr. is the face of the franchise right now. He's the symbol of what has drawn everybody to Petco Park, the sellout crowds, the excitement that has been generated by the Padres. At some point, of course, you always have to evaluate your organization and try to make good decisions for the future. There's no good decision right now that involves trading Fernando Tatis Jr. If a team came and offered like the 5 best prospects in baseball, would you have to consider it? Maybe if someone absolutely overwhelmed you with an offer. But Nick Castellanos and a pitching prospect and maybe eating some of the money that he's owed is just ridiculously absurd. It's absurd.
Look, I said it earlier in the show. If I'm in the Padres organization, like I am livid, and I may even be sending like a text message to somebody with MLB Network. That is the league-ran, league-operated network with some of the worst takes I've ever heard. It's irresponsible to even put that out there as a segment. And I know for a fact that when we had that segment on MLB Network, when was the Joe Musgrove segment? Was it in the offseason after the playoffs or during the season?
It may have even been later in the playoffs. It was
Brian
very
Kenny
soon
going
after
out
that.
and straight up accusing Joe Musgrove of cheating. I know for a fact that Padres officials saw that and they looked into that because that's irresponsible to put that out there on your own network as Major League Baseball, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like Brian Kenny,
he wants to go to war with the Padres and the Padres fans.
Good luck, buddy. Brian Kenny is
good
somebody
luck
that
with
we've
that.
had on this show. I'm going to make the executive decision. He's banned from Venom.
Probably not coming on the show again in the future.
Done.
Now, if the Phillies wanted Xander Bogaerts for Nick Castellanos and a pitching prospect right now, might think about it. Might think about that possibility of a trade at this moment. But again, they have no trade clauses. I don't think Manny and Tatis and Xander want to go anywhere else. They want to be here. They want to be the core. They want to be the foundation of what the Padres are building and are trying to build. Has it worked out ideally, perfectly, the way that we all hoped, the way A.J. Preller intended? Of course not. It has not worked out perfectly yet. Is it time to just throw in the towel and give up on the grand experiment of let's try to win baseball games in San Diego and not pretend and act like we're a small market team anymore? No, we're nowhere near that point in my mind. It's not even like on the radar of a discussion, especially not just because of one 5-game losing streak in April. It's April. It's one 5-game losing streak. It's not time to blow up the San Diego Padres. Not nearly time to blow up the San Diego Padres. So, yeah, Brian Kenny, you're definitely on the you're on the list now. If you weren't, you were already on the list. You're just digging yourself deeper into that hole with the Padres fan base that just
we
has
haven't had
no
him on in
interest.
a long time. We certainly haven't had him on since the Joe Musgrove stuff, and now it's not happening. I honestly, there was a part of me that didn't even want to play that audio this morning. You'd probably already heard it if you're listening. I'm sure it happened early afternoon yesterday or late morning yesterday. So a lot of the shows had already discussed it. And I'm like, man, do we even want to give this guy, is he even worth our airtime right now? I don't know. But It was so absurd. Real quick, Benny, before we go to break, a little programming notes. Typically at this time on Wednesdays, we are hanging up with Adam Jones. We did not get him today. He was traveling to Baltimore to catch some Orioles games and do some stuff with Major League Baseball. He's going to join us at 7:35 tomorrow.
Excellent. And we will still have Bret Boone coming up in our next hour. So we'll get some thoughts from Booney, maybe on what Brian Kenny had to say. And I loved your idea. Like, what's the worst thing that you heard like a member of the media say about you
I remember
during
his
your
video of
playing
Manny
career?
went live on Instagram. He was ripping Dan Plesac.
Yep.
Like, I would love to hear some stories.
I'm sure Booney has he heard things that were said about him during his career. I have no doubt about that. Have that coming up in hour number 3 next. Ben and Paul on The Fan. Hour number 3 on a Wednesday morning. Ben Higgins, Paul Reindl, no Stephen Woods today. People asking in the chat, where is Woodsy? If you didn't hear us talk about it earlier, Woods is taking his kids to the Magic Kingdom today. The happiest place on earth. Last night might have been Petco Park. It's always nice to get a win. But, Woods is at Disneyland today. He's going to come back tomorrow and Friday to wrap up the week. But you, Paul, you got to hang a little bit with Woodsy after the show yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't get my invitation.
Well, you don't play baseball.
That's true.
Yeah. Would you have gone if we did invite you?
No.
Okay, there you go.
So you went and played baseball?
No, we went and worked out a little bit. Went to batting cages. Our buddy David has some cages out in the Miramar area. So we went up there, we met up, and it was him and Bo, and then me, and just trying to get some things dialed in our swing, play on Sunday leagues for the tier 1s there, and things were just feeling a little off, and David got us feeling real good. So I'm loving where the swing's at now, and it's feeling good. But, dude, I just want to give props. And I think they're already at Disneyland. Wood said they were going to get a really early start. So I don't know that they're listening right now. But if they are, I want to give Bo Wood some props. That kid truly has a great swing on him for 6 years old. And not even just because for 6 years old. Like, he has a genuinely great baseball swing. And I haven't asked Woods about this, and I want to ask him next time I talk to him, maybe tomorrow. Now, you also have 2 children. It's been a while since they were 6 and 3.
Yes.
Do you notice when they're that young in particular, you're around them all day, every day, do you notice like their growth? Because when I see Bo every couple of weeks, I feel like he has aged 3 years. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
No,
here?
you don't see it in front of your eyes. It always, for me, it would be like...
Like, I know the saying is, a blink of an eye, and then they're going to be
I'd look at a
18
picture from 6 months ago and go, oh, my God, they changed so much in just 6 months. But
you don't really notice
from a day-to-day basis, you don't really notice it. But it continues. It never stops. 6 and 3, 8 and 6, 12 and 10.
I mean, dude, I'm sitting there at the cages. Like, Woodsy was working with David, and so I was pitching to Bo and just hanging out with him. And like, we're having when this show started back in 2018, Bo was not like a month and a half years old. Like, he was a baby. And so we have kind of grown as a show with Bo and now with Taylor. And to sit there and have like a full-on conversation, like I'm talking to an adult with Bo, it was just so cool. It was so much fun. I love both of those kids so much, Uncle Paulie. And just to see Bo, and I'm like, every like 2 or 3 weeks I probably see him. He comes out to our tier 1 games on Sundays, or he comes in the studio here, whatever. I'll see him and I'll be like, holy crap, he's gotten bigger. His voice sounds deeper. Like, he's more mature already. And it's just every 2 weeks.
It's funny that you mentioned the voice, because for me, and Woods is far from this stage yet, the biggest change came actually when they turned into teenagers, and they had their first cell phones. And I remember my oldest son recorded his outgoing voice message, and it was in his pre-voice change high voice, the high.
Hey,
hi,
how's it going?
It's Jack. Leave a message. And then he didn't change it, and as his voice changed over the years, and I would call and I would think, oh, it's funny, I still get to hear his child voice when I call, but then he changed it one day, and I was almost like,
you're sad.
It almost like it was a punch in the stomach, like, oh, childhood is truly gone now, because now he talks with a deep voice like I do, and my other son does as well. My other son just started a new job yesterday, working in Carlsbad at a new store. Said it went really well. So yeah, you get a whole new set of challenges. They keep growing though, and they keep getting older, and now they're just adults and they're not children anymore. But you just hope that you savor the time as they're, as they are growing up, because it goes really fast and you don't ever get it back. And sometimes you wish you could go back and have them be little again. But ultimately the goal is to get them to be, productive human beings and adults. And every step you take toward that is actually successful, even if it does hurt a little bit as parents to see them not be your little kids anymore. So I'm glad Woods is taking some time out today and getting to go do this.
100%. Taking them to Disneyland, that's always a fun treat. And, it's just like kids aren't in the plans for me and Megan, but Woods and I kind of have a similar background with father figures in our life or lack thereof. And so to see him just being such a good dad constantly 24/7 and watching him in the cages with Bo yesterday and just the talking back and forth and the fun that they have all the time. It was really, really sweet moment. I really enjoyed it.
Getting a lot of reaction from the tier ones on the Brian Kenny segment. Brian Kenny is definitely unhinged. East County Chris, Brian Kenny might get me to cut the cord. The SD Nandolorian says that has got to be the most delusional take I've ever heard, ever. That was pretty
else,
crazy.
man.
And we don't need to belabor it. Everyone says dumb stuff on TV and radio, sports talkers all the time. It does feel like Brian Kenny has, whether it's conscious or unconscious now, has a vendetta or just bad feelings toward the San Diego Padres that he seems to let out on the air a little bit too often. And
again, if this was Brian Kenny on WFAN or something,
right, it wouldn't
in New
matter.
York, it would still be stupid, and the clips would probably come around every once in a while. This is MLB Network, and they're supposed to be, like NFL Network is more homer biased opinions in favor of anything that the teams do in their league because it's all one big partnership, whereas ESPN, who's also a partner of the NFL, but they may criticize a little bit more. You don't really see it that often on the league ran and operated networks, and I just think this is getting to be absurd right now with Brian Kenny.
Padres did get the 6-4 win yesterday to snap their 5-game losing streak. Yu Darvish with 5 shutout innings, very efficient, 70 pitches in his return from the injured list, and hopefully that continues. Padres need a good turn through the rotation. Joe Musgrove will get a very important start today as he tries to bounce back. Joe has given up 8 home runs in his last 4 starts, including, of course, 4 in his last outing against the Philadelphia Phillies on Friday night. The Padres need Joe Musgrove to be more Joe Musgrove-like. Now, even though he didn't have his best stuff early in the season, he battled to the point where had the Padres scored some runs for him, he's 3-3. He could have won a couple more of those games. He kept the Padres in games. It was the last start against the Phillies that really he never gave them a real chance. They need to get Joe back to at least being the guy who pitches, 6 to 7 innings, keeps them, in the game, 2 or 3 runs at most. And what they really need is Joe to go out there and throw a really special Joe-type performance. 7 innings, 1 run. Padres put some runs on the board, win the series, move on. You get a day off tomorrow. This is the end of your longest stretch of the year so far, 13 games in 13 days. You get an off day tomorrow, and then it's off to the Beehive in Arizona to take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. First meeting against a team that is, by the way, also off to a slow start coming off their World Series appearance last year. They did win last night over the Dodgers, but like the Padres, the Diamondbacks are 3 games below 500, which means this next series is going to be pretty important as well. One team, could emerge with some momentum and moving forward and up in the standings and feeling like things are okay. The other one, if they lose the series or get swept, is going to feel like, all right, now we're buried in 4th. We got a bunch of teams ahead of us. We got to climb our way back to 500. How long is that going to take? It's going to be another important early season series for the Padres this weekend at Chase Field. And it's a place where, historically has been a tough one for the Padres to get victories at. So, take that day off and build some momentum into what is going to be a big weekend series against the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Big game today. Would love a series win. It would feel like such a gut punch to lose today after, snapping that 5-game losing streak yesterday, having a fairly clean win. I mean, it was 6-4. The game was certainly not, you didn't ever put the Reds away, but you also never felt like, okay, they're going to lose this game. They're going to blow this. Like, they let them back in, but the Padres were really in control for the majority of the night. And to come out, you would love to see Joe Musgrove really get back to form. And like you said, get some momentum heading into a divisional series this weekend.
Yeah, I made the point earlier. I was one off. If they win today, Padres will be 4-2-1 in their last 7 series. So it would be 4 series wins, 2 series losses, and 1 series split of the 4-gamer in Colorado. It's not exactly completely scuffling and struggling. Now, at the start of that stretch was when they took on the Chicago Cubs in early April. They were 2 games under 500. If they win today, They will be 2 games under 500, and then we'll be back to 500 over that stretch over the last 3 weeks or so against the Cubs, Dodgers, Brewers, Blue Jays, Rockies, Phillies, and Reds. Other than the Rockies, and we know what happened in that series. It was disappointing. They needed to take 3 out of 4 or sweep, and they didn't. But other than that, you're playing a bunch of good teams, and you're treading water, and it's not the worst outcome. So you get the win today. You head into the start of May here with a day off tomorrow. You don't have to feel that bad about where the San Diego Padres are. We'll see if Joe Musgrove can do it. He'll be going up against Graham Ashcraft, who is a right-hander, 3-1 with a 4.40 ERA for the Cincinnati Reds. Had a pretty good outing his last time out against the Texas Rangers. They lost, but he went 6 innings and gave up just 1 run. Before that, though, he had a couple of outings with 5 runs allowed against the Angels and the Milwaukee Brewers. So we'll see what the Padres can do offensively today against Graham Ashcraft. That's a 12:10 Eco Water SoCal pregame show with Sam Levitt. First pitch with Jesse and Bob Scanlon at 1:10 this afternoon here on 97.3 The Fan. Other baseball news and notes from last night. Saw the post, Luis Patino, who the Padres signed this offseason and never really showed up. He was there at spring training but never really got going. He had Tommy John surgery. He had a post from the hospital bed saying it's successful. I saw our friend Emily Nyman had posted that. So, Luis Patino's out for the rest of the year. I don't believe the Padres have any rights to him beyond this year. So a little flyer on signing Patino and getting him back did not work out. I don't think it cost them really much or any money to do so, but we won't be seeing Luis Patino pitching for the San Diego Padres this year. Had a pretty interesting game yesterday. The Cardinals and Tigers played the doubleheader. Did you see what Jack Flaherty did for the Tigers?
No.
So former Cardinals pitcher going up against his old team tied the American League record. He struck out the first 7 batters of the game. So into the 3rd inning, he tied Blake Snell and others who have shared that record in the American League. He only pitched 6 2/3 innings only, but he struck out 14 batters. So at one point when he was in the 5th and 6th, he was actually kind of on the pace for a 21 strikeout game, which is the all-time baseball record. And then the Tigers didn't even win the game. The Cardinals scored 2 runs in the 9th inning to win it 2-1. That is a wasted pitching performance, but one of the best ones of the season we've seen so far came from Jack Flaherty yesterday of the Detroit Tigers. You had the bad game of the day was the Marlins and the Rockies, both teams with over 20 losses. This was a weird one. The Rockies scored 5 in the top of the first. And then no one scored the rest of the game until the bottom of the 9th, when the Marlins scored 5 in the bottom of the 9th to send the game to extra innings. And then the Rockies scored 1 in the top of the 10th, and the Marlins scored 2 in the bottom of the 10th to win it 7-6. So the Marlins are now 7-24. The Rockies are 7-22. And both of those teams definitely battling for the title of worst team in baseball through the first month of the season. But that was definitely one of the odd games. I saw Juan Soto hit one completely out of Camden Yards onto Utah Street, which they lost, though, that game 4-2 to the Baltimore Orioles, but he did hit another big home run. And a former Padre alert, Victor Caratini hit a walk-off 2-run home run with 2 outs in the 10th inning to lift the Astros to a 10-9 win over the Cleveland Guardians. Jeff Blum, our show friend, was on the call, and he said, I like a couple of olives with my Caratini, as he rounded the bases. Got a little punny, which I always appreciate. All right, we'll come back. Bret Boone is going to join us at the bottom of the hour, so stay tuned for that. Also had some comments, LeBron James, the future of LeBron. Basketball Ben will make a brief appearance.
Oh, boy.
Just when Woods is gone, you know it's going to happen. Do you, and Paul, you're a basketball fan more than Woods is, do you really envision a scenario where Bronny and LeBron are going to play together next year? Like that could happen for the Lakers or another team. Is that really a scenario that you think will play out in the NBA next year?
Absolutely.
You do? Okay.
I do.
Well, we'll talk about it when we come back with Ben Woods. Check traffic. More on the way on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Ollie, that's very exciting news that he just shared with me during the break.
Big day.
Paulie has his very first own personal Costco membership card. Oh, it's an exciting world of Costco shopping.
Damn.
Can I recommend, make sure you go through the clothes. I am a big fan of Costco's
settle down
clothing selection. They even have shoes. I know you like shoe game. Check out some of the kicks that they have available at Costco. Have you ever gotten a great deal, like $12 shoes? They have some there at Costco for sure.
You're a monster.
Socks,
I get my clothes
underwear
at the Ben & Woods merch store.
That's true. Paulie is wearing Ben & Woods merch. He's a good producer and today co-host with Woods out at Disneyland with his kids.
Yeah, so I never had a Costco membership as a single adult. I didn't really have the need to go to Costco very often for just one person. And then since I've been with my girlfriend and now wife, Megan, she was on a family plan with her mom and sister or whatever. And so we would go together and use her card, but we finally have branched off and got our own plan. And so now I have my own Costco card with my picture and everything on it.
Do you, and I will ask this kind of all the tier ones out there as well. So Costco, like Trader Joe's, they have the samples set up during the day. Usually the food items are the ones that are most popular, but people will take them so quickly that then the person who is preparing the samples always has to say, just give me like 3 or 4 minutes and we'll put some more out. And then people start congregating and hovering around until the samples come back out. And I always feel so uncomfortable. Like I don't want to just stand here and wait for the sample. That is... I mean, come on, just buy
something's
buy
like in the little toaster oven.
Yeah, it's just waiting on the
sit here and talk with this person
in the little stove that they've got, and you're waiting for it to be finished and reheated from frozen.
So, how's your day going?
And you're just standing there. It's the most awkward moment at Costco when you're standing around with other people waiting for the free sample, the tiny little bite of something. So I just pass by. Now, there's no better feeling when there's no one there and you're walking by and they just put something fresh out right in front of you and you just grab it as you walk by, pop it in your mouth, toss the little paper into the trash, and you just move on with your day. It's great. And I know they're trying to tempt you into buying things. I rarely buy the things that they are actually selling me as a sample.
The samples are usually good, but they're not. You're like, wait, what aisle? Yeah. I have to.
No, they're good. To me, it's just kind of entertainment as I'm walking around the store.
That was the best shot of grapefruit juice I've ever had in my life.
Exactly. I'm not buying 3 gallons of it though. So have fun with your new Costco membership.
I can't wait. I'm going today after the show.
Quick update from Adam Jones. I just saw he tweeted just a couple of minutes ago. Fact that British Airways is the worst when it comes to international travel. How the F you just take someone off a flight and reroute them 200 miles away from where they were going? How? Just how? Oh, awesome for you. 10 pounds, whatever that means. You said he was heading to Baltimore. Did they send him to D.C. or somewhere in Virginia instead? Hey, you're close. We got you near Baltimore. That's good enough. I'm not sure what happened to him.
He was in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, we just landed in London when I originally texted him this morning, hey, you still good? So they got to London, and then he said, on my way to Baltimore.
On his way to Baltimore. Well, obviously he's having some difficulties getting there, courtesy of British Airways.
How the F you just take someone off a flight?
Reroute them 200 miles. That's not where I want to go. That would be like sending someone...
What's 200 miles away from Baltimore?
I think Washington, D.C. is a lot closer than 200 miles. So I was thinking maybe what would be Philadelphia or something? I mean, that's probably even closer than that. I have no idea where they're sending him instead. Or maybe he wasn't supposed to go a different airport in London or something. I have no idea. But
Philly to Baltimore is only 100 miles.
Yeah, that's even 100 miles. How do you get 200 miles off of where you were supposed to be going on your flight?
I don't know.
All right, so just quickly, I wanted to bring up because LeBron sent out a tweet yesterday, said, hey, I'm going to go spend some time with my family. When I know what my future looks like, I will let everybody know, but just back off, essentially. The speculation, the reports of what I'm doing. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. So clearly LeBron could continue to play basketball if he wants. He's all-star for
probably gonna happen.
20th straight season. There's no question that he has the talent and was good enough that if he wants to play another year, wants to play another 2, even 3 years, I have no doubt that LeBron could do it. But he'd also said a couple of months ago, we're getting kind of close to the end. I don't know when, but we're getting closer and closer. And he said in 2022, my last season, I want to play with my son. I want to play with Bronny in the NBA. Well, Bronny declared for the NBA draft. He also entered the transfer portal from USC a month or so ago. And LeBron said, hey, we're going to make that decision. That's kind of next. If Bronny decides to stay in the draft and go pro, is that how it's going to end? Is LeBron going to play one last season? Will the Lakers somehow use a draft pick? I think they only have like a second rounder on Bronny James. They have other needs that they could address, but just to keep LeBron happy and playing for the Lakers, will they somehow get him on the team so they can play together for a season? And even if they do, I can't see Bronny James getting a significant amount of playing time. I mean, he's, the fact that he barely played for USC last year, and obviously he had the heart attack, you feel like he'd be more of a G League, you got to develop and eventually get to the NBA. I just don't know that I don't know it's feasible for LeBron to say, hey, it's got to happen. It's got to happen this year, and you've got to get it done. If he wants to play with Bronny, I think he's going to have to be patient and wait at least two or even 3 more seasons before it really feels like that's something that he can make happen.
I mean, LeBron's still playing at a very high level.
Very.
It's not absurd that he could
Arguably
play
top 10 player in the NBA still this year at age 39.
He could absolutely play one more year, and Bronny could transfer to another school and play one more season. I don't know, man. I think the Lakers, it's kind of a ceremonious draft pick if they were to do that. And I can see it working out.
It's a waste of a draft pick. Sorry. I mean, it is.
Yeah, but you're making LeBron James happy.
You are.
You kind of have to do things that you maybe don't want to do when you have a superstar like LeBron James. Also, if I'm, the Memphis Grizzlies and I have a second-round pick, and I'm thinking,
will LeBron sign if we take Bronny James?
The other person we probably would have, who's probably the better draft pick, probably not going to have that much of an impact on our team.
And he's not going to bring LeBron James to town.
Can we get LeBron James here for a season?
It's weird. It kind of
the dollars would absolutely equate to making that a good decision.
Yeah, it kind of cheapens the draft a little bit if you're going to do that. I don't really care so much. I should probably be having this conversation with Tony Gwynn Jr.
Who's the better NBA prospect right now after their college season that they just had? Jaden Ledee or Bronny James?
Yeah, Ledee is a possible second-round draft pick. I haven't seen his name on actual mock drafts, but I would think that he is a better prospect at this moment than Bronny James would be after his freshman year. I did get into an argument with my son who said, Lakers have to fire Darvin Ham. And I go, I don't know. I mean, I thought the Lakers played better this year than they did last year. You're playing me off now, aren't you?
Now we're getting in the weeds here.
Fine. I know they got eliminated in the first round. They played better against Denver.
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, fine. Bret Boone is going to join us when we come back. Basketball talk is done. Baseball talk returns next with Ben and Paul on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Maggie says basketball Ben shows up, doesn't even talk about the crazy Sixers-Knicks game yesterday. Well, I could, but Paulie would just play me off. Actually, Paulie admitted he even watched the end of that game with Tyrese Maxey scoring 7 in the last 25 seconds to keep the Sixers alive. Maybe the game of the playoffs so far. So there you go, Maggie. It was that was fantastic. Even Paulie was watching that game. But we're going to talk some more baseball here. Bret Boone is standing by, host of the Bret Boone podcast. We will get to that right after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. Yeah, we're joined right now by Odyssey MLB insider Bret Boone. Insider calls are presented by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Bret is also the host of the Bret Boone podcast featuring the most notable names in MLB and around sports every week. Bret, you got me and Paul today. Woodsy's at Disneyland. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, guys.
I saw you had a good crew out at the game this weekend, too, at Petco Park. Who was there? Andy Ashby. I saw Brian Lawrence in that picture. A couple of Randy Jones was there. It looked like
Randy's he's the staple.
Yeah.
Every time it seems I go to a game, there's Randy. What a good dude.
You can't get rid of him even
Randy.
if you wanted to. Yeah.
Is he like
No.
is he just the usher for the owner's box? Like he works there now?
He's great. He comes over. He's like, Booney, what are you doing?
Hey, Booney.
Hey, Randy. He goes, I want to thank you for coming out today. I said, you didn't even ask me to come. I got invited by Tommy Seidler. And he's like, well, I just have to say that. So I love Randy Jones. What a great man. And Rupert Jones was there. Last past, and then
Chris Gomez,
Gomi was there. It was good to see Gomi. I haven't seen him in a long time. Loretta was floating around, but I guess business called, so he didn't get in the stellar picture.
Always working with you. Were at Sunday's game, so you saw the Phillies complete the sweep. Tough series for the San Diego Padres. They did bounce back last night. I just want to get, first of all, just some of your observations on what you saw from the team, up close and getting to see them in action. That was the closer game, but they were not able to pull that one out either. Phillies just had an answer for everything the Padres did on Sunday.
Well, sometimes in this game over 162, you catch a team, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to beat you. Phillies are in that mode right now. I mean, they were just kind of in the zone, and you just want them to get out of town as soon as possible. Always nice to sneak a game out, but they weren't able to do that. I'm watching this team. Padres are sitting there. They're 15 and 18, kind of in the middle of the division. A lot of these teams in this division that I thought were going to be off to a better start than this aren't. So they're in the middle of the pack. I don't know. I think we see some real positive signs from the young kid Merrill. How was he going to do at 20 years old starting the season? He's held his own. Profar's been a real boon for them. But it comes to Cronenworth off to a good start. But you need the big guy. You need Tatis, Machado, Bogarts. They're going to be the guys that carry this offense. Now on the pitching side, it was good to see Darvish back last night. Pitched 5 scoreless innings. Got the Padres back on the winning trail after dropping 5 straight. The concern for me is I think Dylan Cease is going to be good. I think King's still in that in-between mode, where he's been a reliever, he's a starter. It seems he's got nasty stuff, but it seems he always finds one inning where he makes a couple mistakes that cost him. That's happened to him in a couple of his starts this year. Waldron's done a nice job. I was watching Musgrove the other day, and I have a little concern with Musgrove. He's just not right. He seems like he doesn't want to throw the fastball, and when he does throw the fastball, he doesn't want to throw the fastball for a strike. That really becomes, from an offensive perspective, it really becomes a predictable thing. So right now, as a hitter, I know he doesn't want to throw me a fastball for a strike, so I can just ignore the fastball and sit on the breaking ball. Problem is, too, is when he's throwing the breaking ball, he's either hanging it or he's missing by 1.5 feet off the plate. So it's not a swing and miss pitch. And when it is a strike, it's right in the middle of the plate. So he's got some things that he's got to work out. I mean, Musgrove, I've loved this guy ever since he's become a Padre. I think he's a horse, but he's got some things to work out right now. Really predictable with that fastball. And I remember guys in my generation, they'd go through that where before the game we'd have a team meeting, especially with the hitters, and say, hey, this guy don't want to throw you a fastball for a strike. And a lot of times, as soon as I hear that, I ignore fastball. If he throws me 3 fastballs down the middle, I'm going to tip my cap and move on to the dugout. But when I feel like you're scared and you're not quite trusting in your fastball, it makes easy pickings, especially for an elite team that'll wait you out and sit on that breaking ball.
So let me ask you this, Brett, because Joe's pitching today, and his struggles have led to speculation that the shoulder injury that shut him down last year may be having an effect. That the velo's down a little bit. The command, obviously, as you said, on the breaking ball is not quite there, and it's led people to say, well, maybe he's not right. Now, Joe denies that. He says, no, I feel healthy. I feel good to go. As a player, how often would you hide an injury? Would you downplay an injury because you want to stay in the lineup? You want to work it out on the field? And at what point does that become a disservice to your team where you actually do need to say, you know what, I'm not right, and you probably do need to shut me down for a little bit? What's that, that equation like in your head as a player when you're thinking about addressing it with your manager or the training staff?
Well, I've had, I was pretty lucky in my career not to have too many injuries, but you point out a good, especially in today's game, there's a great point there. These guys today, they'll shut you down for anything. It's like, oh, I'm a little sore up, take a week off. It seems like the 10-day IL is like no big deal. Whereas in my day, it was kind of, wait a minute, I can't miss 10 games. I've got numbers to hit. I need to be out there for my teammates. So it becomes, it's a subjective thing, if you know what I'm saying. I've had injuries. Like I said, I was very lucky to be pretty injury-free throughout my career. I had a couple that held me back, but for the most part, I was pretty healthy. When I did have something that I was dinged up and was affecting me, I'd always caution on the side of, I feel fine, don't worry about it. Now, depending on who's in the mix, yeah, the guys I can trust, I'm going to go to and say, hey, my quads, it's kind of hurting me right now, but I can get through this. And it's really, there's no foolproof way to really decide, is he right, is he wrong? It's like, you kind of got to trust the player, and hey, if you're 90%, I'll take a Joe Musgrove at 90% versus shutting him down. Now, I don't want an injury to be a possibility because you're not 100%, you're 90%. But at the same time, you got to kind of make that adjustment. I was a second baseman, middle of the lineup guy. If I was 80%, I felt, well, 80% kind of is better than the alternative. But when it gets to a point where it's hurting your team, you kind of have to kind of look in the mirror with clear lenses and just say, this isn't good for me right now. This isn't good for my team right now. I got to go and I got to take care of this and get healthy and back to pitching the way I can. Because Joe Musgrove, as we all know and have seen throughout the years, when he's right, he's a horse, top of the rotation guy that you can count on. When you come to the ballpark and Musgrove's pitching and is in peak Musgrove form, you think we got a win for us tonight. So it's one of those things. It's a touchy situation where you kind of have to make the judgment. It's usually the player, especially an established one of the main guys. He's usually got a little more leeway than a rookie that just came up as far as whether he's going to go or he's not going to go. It's up to Joe. But what I saw last start, I see a few things that trouble me a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how he throws the ball today.
Talking to Bret Boone, Insider Calls are brought to you by Grainger. For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers professional-grade supplies and solutions made for every industry, backed by product experts. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. So this was actually Paulie's idea, and I thought it was a brilliant question to ask you. We played some audio earlier today. Brian Kenny on MLB Network was talking about trading Fernando Tatis Jr.
Have you seen this clip going around?
I don't know if you've seen the clip, but he basically
I
says
haven't seen it yet.
he says no one would take Fernando Tatis Jr. because his numbers are down since the suspension, and no one would want to take on that contract. I think that's one of the most insane things I've ever heard.
Maybe one team might be
I
interested
think there'd
in
be
trading
29 teams that would be interested in Fernando Tatis Jr. And then he said maybe like Nick Castellanos at a pitching prospect if the Phillies offered that. I go, Petco Park would riot if they traded Fernando Tatis Jr. for Nick Castellanos right now. There's no chance. But Paulie then had the idea. Obviously, dumb things are said about professional athletes all the time by members of the media. Do you remember in your career any time that something like really stupid was said about Bret Boone in the media and you heard it and like you either had to react or not react to it? You had to comment about it. What were some of the like dumb things that would get said about you as a ball player?
Or even a teammate, maybe.
Or a teammate even, yeah.
Well, back in our it was different. It was different. The pay scale was different. Don't get me wrong. We were paid very handsomely in my day, not compared to what the guys were playing today, but it seemed like every year, and I remember the last contract I signed in the early 2000s, and I went out and I was, I was a second baseman. I was coming off an 0-1 year where it would be tough for me to match the numbers.
That was a great year, yeah.
0-2, I drove in like 109 and hit, 25 or 26 homers, hit 280, and I remember the calls where Boone's overrated, he's way overpaid, and I'm going, I'm a second baseman driving in over 100, winning Gold Gloves, and it was just a different time. Now, as far as ludicrous, I'll tell you what, I can say it now because I'm 17 years removed. There were some things that came out that seemed so ludicrous that what are you talking about? Where really there was some truth to it, but I would dismiss it because it was so ridiculous. Oh, come on, I didn't do that on a golf course. With this guy's crazy. And behind the scenes, I'm going, well, he's got something there. But no, not too many crazy things. This Tatis thing by Kenny, I haven't seen it, but what you guys are telling me, that's absurd. I mean, Fernando Tatis, yeah, he's got a long way to go, but he's got that. He's the full package. And when he's going and when he gets it right, he's got that MVP type ability, and not to mention the swagger that he's got. He's got that LA De La Cruz, Acuna, that persona that you put him on the cover of the media guide for the next 10 years, and he brings people in. People in San Diego go to the ballpark to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. play, and there's not too many people. Trout does that. A Bryce Harper does that. Now we're seeing some young players that people will come to the ballpark. Of course, Ohtani. You'll come to the ballpark to watch Ohtani play. Tatis is in that category of draws that, yeah, you just can't get away from it. Especially people that aren't baseball fans. It's like, you going to a Padres game? Yeah, I want to see this Tatis Jr. kid play. I mean, he's got that type of draw. So to say that one of 2019, that's a little bit ludicrous. I'm not going to say 29 teams would trade for him, but let's be realistic here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the Marlins aren't going to trade for him right now because there are some teams that just don't want to spend any money, but that's a different issue entirely.
Can you even imagine, Booney, like walking into the clubhouse before all your pregame warm-ups? You got MLB Network on in the clubhouse there, and like they're talking about a scuffling, maybe not even really scuffling. Fernando's having a fine. He's doing okay. He's good. He's doing
okay. I'll tell you what, for his standards, no, he's not doing okay. He's got 6 homers.
Sure.
He's hitting right around 240, but it's the first month.
Yeah, but his expected batting average is over 300. He's been one of the unluckiest players in baseball. Just ripped lineouts all over the park. I know you knew that feeling when you were squaring it up, and it just always seemed to find a glove, and then you'll go through a couple of weeks where you're not hitting it that hard, and all of a sudden they're all blooping in, and it makes no sense for a baseball player.
Right. No, without a doubt. And Tatis, I have full confidence that if he remains healthy, feeling good, the cream will rise to the top. He's too good. Even on his worst year, he'll have a borderline all-star year. That's the type of talent Fernando Tatis is. And I don't worry about anything where his numbers are in April. 3 or 4 months from now, we'll see, and I'll guarantee you all his numbers will start to fall in place where everybody thinks they should be.
I had a benches clearing, or like a real one, brawl yesterday between the Rays And the Brewers, not those, baseball, everyone just stands around kind of brawls, but actually some punches thrown. You have any stories for us of real benches clearing brawls that you got involved in during your career?
Wow, man, this is story day. Yeah, I actually got one that I think you'll like. And Pedro Martinez is on the mound. We're in Montreal. This is the early 90s, mid-90s. And he's pitching a perfect game. And I'm watching this, though. I'm hitting behind Reggie Sanders, who was also, Padre. I'm hitting behind Reggie Sanders, and I'm watching how this is. And Pedro's pinpoint this particular day. And he keeps buzzing Reggie's tower and then striking him out with breaking balls. I think he struck him out at least twice, maybe 3 times. And I remember Reggie pointing at him with the bat and saying, I'll tell you what, you throw one more pitch near me, there's going to be a problem. Yeah, I don't think he said that. I think he was a little more verbal than that. But I saw that, okay? I saw that interaction. So fast forward, I don't know if it's the 7th, 8th inning. Pedro's got a perfect game. He hasn't given up a while. Reggie comes to the plate, and the first pitch squares him up in the back. Reggie, if you know Reggie at all, is one of the kindest men in the world, but he's one of those guys where you go over the line with him, and he snaps. You don't want to be around.
But Pedro didn't want to hit him. He had a perfect game going.
No. 100%. Pedro drilled him on purpose.
Even with a perfect game.
He threw away a perfecto.
Without a doubt. Because on this particular day, believe me, I had to go up there and get in the box. He wasn't missing an inch from where he wanted to throw the ball. So Reggie gives the point of the bat at him, threatens Pedro, and says, you throw one more near me. And then the next pitch, he drills him in the back. And everybody, Ben, they said what you said. No way he possibly did that. It's a perfect. You got to know Pedro. You got to know the history. I came up with Pedro in the minor leagues. Pedro doesn't care. Pedro is one of those guys. He does not give a rat's ass about a perfect game, a no-hitter. If he's going to drill you, he's going to drill you. That was part of his persona. That was part of his ambiance, that the mysteriousness. Pedro could drill you at any time. Without a doubt, he drilled. That was one of the biggest fights I've seen. I was in the middle of it. I wasn't throwing any haymakers. It'd be fun to say that I got bloody. I didn't. I was kind of the, push and shove. Hey, get away from him. Get away, breaking it up. But Pedro, I don't think Reggie ever got to Pedro. I think he was in center field by the time Reggie got to the mound. But that was one of the bigger brawls I was in.
Crazy that he would give up a perfect game just to make a point.
Absolutely. I'll go to my grave. Absolutely no question in my mind. He drilled him on purpose.
Oh, wow. I can't even. That's
incredible.
How tough was it to face that guy? I mean, I can't even imagine.
Oh, man, on a good day, he was tough. He had 4+ pitches. And, it's tough enough when a guy has 2+ pitches. But Pedro in his day for about 3 or 4 years, he had 4+ pitches. He could throw any pitch at any time. So is that 3-1 changeup? Is it that 3-1 slow hook, that 3-1 slider, or that electric fastball painted? So he was something. I found a way when Pedro was pitching, or any elite number 1 type guy. Always my mentality was a knock and a walk. If I can get a knock today and I can walk, pull a 1 for 3, I'm going to help my team maybe win a game today. Because those guys, you got to take what you can get. Pedro was definitely tough. I think I got him a couple times though. I took him deep.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Yeah, Brett.
But I'll tell you, it was no fun facing him.
Great stuff as always. Hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon. Thank you, man. Have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, Paulie.
There he is, Odyssey MLB Insider Bret Boone. Insider Calls presented by Grainger, with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by.
What a story.
That's
good.
incredible. He's not going to want to walk you, so look for low and away, but watch out for in your ear. Oh, yeah, I guess he didn't care that he had the perfect game going. All right, we'll come back. Paulie's got some headlines in the Reindl Report. Maybe get a crossover later in our final segment with Annie and Elston on a Wednesday, a woodsless Wednesday on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. If I don't say it enough, Paulie Reindl does a really good job on many, many different things on this show. Today, he is kind of filling in with extra responsibilities as the co-host with Woodsy off, but he's still doing all of his normal duties of running the YouTube stream and running the board and all of our sound bites and commercials and booking the show as the producer and putting together the promos and everything that you do, Paul. You do a great job.
Hey, thank you.
And
Paul, you do a great job.
Paul, you do a great job. So I don't say it enough, but you really do.
Ben, you do a great job.
I'm curious. So usually you set up guests like Bret Boone, who just joined us in our last segment, via text. In fact, when was the last time you actually called someone to try to book a guest?
I couldn't even tell you. There's a couple times, you know who's notorious for is Andy Ashby. I'll shoot him a text, and he will call me immediately.
Call you back?
He will not text me back.
But you don't call him. He calls you.
Yeah, I don't reach out. I don't really reach out to anybody almost.
Right. It's all done via text.
Not even just work related. Like
I wish that it existed when I was producing shows. Because
like if I called a friend even like just to catch up randomly without texting them, hey, are you busy? Like,
Crazy.
hey, you want to chat? They'd be like, hey, is everything okay?
Yeah, it's
okay?
weird at this point. Well, I saw this tweet yesterday from our colleague and fellow producer Matt Scraby. Said, I've been looking through some of my past texts and seeing which guests we've had in the past. One thing is true. I call dudes sir way too much. They must be like, who is this guy calling me sir? Context is a thank you. Thank you, sir, or yes, sir, 240 works great. Do you call anybody sir anymore? Is there any reason to call someone sir?
Yeah, sure.
You do?
Yeah, it's. I mean,
unless you're like a waiter,
I think
server at a restaurant,
it's a sign of respect.
I think it's weird now. I think it's strange nowadays. I wouldn't like Michael, our boss, if he came in and he said, "Oh, great show," I went, "Oh, thank you, sir." I mean, unless it was really casual, like
okay, like if Michael and Annie walked by, I probably wouldn't be, hello sir, hello ma'am, but I probably wouldn't say that, but I would casually be like, thank you sir, or something like that. Like,
I mean, certainly you can do the old yes sir, and get excited about something, but to really with like no irony, no jokingness about it, to refer to someone as sir, even if they hold a higher station. I mean, maybe like the president of the United States. Oh, yes sir. Well, right away, sir.
Sure.
But, I mean, unless you're like a butler and you're employed by someone.
Like, I'm going to text Eno Saris here before too long to make sure he's good to go for 8:35 tomorrow morning, and I probably won't say with, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
But it's not unheard of if he's like, yeah, good to go. I'd be like, awesome, thank you, sir. And maybe the emoji or something. Like,
I think part of it is that I know I'd feel weird if people I do feel weird when people refer to me as sir in a non-ironic way. Even if I'm at like a restaurant, I'll take you right to your table, sir. It feels odd nowadays.
Right.
Peter Seidler wanted me to call him Peter.
Right.
Like, okay, he owns the Padres. Pretty much the most important guy in town.
One in a million.
But Ron Fowler was the same way. He certainly did not want to be referred to as sir. And, they're older school type people. It's just not something that you hear unless you're in the military or, in a chain of command. I just don't think you're going to see it anymore. And I said, it struck me as you can use it as a yes, sir, just kind of a that works sort of thing. But to actually unironically use sir or ma'am nowadays.
I don't think there's anything weird to it.
I don't think there's any reason for it anymore.
I think it's a sign of respect.
Okay.
No big deal.
All right, let's get some headlines. It is time for today's Reindl Report. Another Paulie responsibility.
And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
On 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? Dude, I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a oh yeah? Oh yeah.
All right.
All right.
Take it away, sir.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, sir. We will start off with.
I've distracted you now.
Yeah, now you got me going. No, I'm trying to find my first story. Okay, here we go. Big story in baseball yesterday. Awful story. We were actually kicking around. Is this a don't do this? And I said no because you can't really give a don't do this to a guy for getting hurt. It's a don't do this situation for the game and for us as fans, but it was announced yesterday Mike Trout needs knee surgery for a torn meniscus. And last I saw, they didn't really know the extent of the injury. It wasn't, when it was reported yesterday, it was not expected to be season ending, but it feels like if we're not already there, we're very, very close to the end of the Mike Trout era. He's one of the best players to ever play the game. I respect the guy for playing his career the way he wants to and staying with one team. I think it's a crime against the sport that he's got, 12 ABs in the postseason or whatever it is. Like, he's got nothing. And the fact that he doesn't have a signature October moment, it pains me as a baseball fan. I'm not an Angels fan. I'm a fan of baseball.
His career will go down perhaps as the greatest career with the least impact on baseball of all time. And that is sad.
Yeah.
You think about guys like Ernie Banks, Hall of Fame career, never played a single postseason game for the Cubs in his entire career. But that was in the day before wild cards. Now in the wild card era, to have only a handful of playoff at-bats in an entire career in which for most of that time you were the or one of the best players in all of baseball. It is kind of sad that you think about it. I'll throw in the one don't do this element if we're going to go that direction for Mike Trout. He was quoted in the story saying, "You play the game hard and S happens." Yeah, but there are a lot of, everyone for the most part plays the game hard. Some guys harder than others, but that you can't use that as an excuse. Well, hey, if you want me to be playing hard, then I'm going to be getting hurt. Give me Manny Machado. Give me the guy who may take his foot off the gas every once in a while, but is out there for 160 games a season. I'm sorry. Mike Trout may be one of the greats, but this is now the 4th consecutive season in which he's going to miss significant amounts of time. And if he's not on the field, he's not one of the better players anymore. He was in the 2010s. 2020s, he's just been okay. And that's too bad because now he's the only star that the Angels have with Ohtani gone, and they're quickly falling to out of relevance again in the American League West this year.
Would love to see him bounce back, but
of course,
man, it's just it's rough seeing this happen to a guy like Mike Trout.
Totally.
Next up, got a story here from Front Office Sports. It says the Las Vegas Raiders are launching their own fan cruise in 2025. It's a 7-night trip going from Los Angeles to the Mexican Riviera. On the cruise, there will be an open bar, some mini golf, a casino, autograph sessions, dining with the alumni. Alumni include Reggie Kinlaw, Jacoby Ford, Willie Galt, and others. Rooms go from $2,400 up to $16,000. And he said this is a fairly common thing, he thought. I couldn't remember seeing a ton of these team-sponsored, team-themed cruises, but is that something that, like, let's say the Padres put together a Padres cruise with, Bret Boone and Andy Ashby?
This has been a thing for longer than you'd think, Paulie. You may not have heard of it, but I remember even back like in the 80s and 90s, like team fan cruises were definitely a thing. In fact, I remember, maybe someone can confirm this for me. I remember like a Saturday Night Live spoof where they did, I want to say it was like the Phillies alumni cruise. And then all they did was just list like random old Phillies, like come join the cruise with players like Matt Noakes and, just the absolute bottom of the barrel players from Phillies history. And you can just get on a cruise with like hundreds of them. And they just kept listing names and names. But honestly, I'd go on a Padres cruise if they did a cruise. Would you go? Now, here's the question. Tier 1s. Would you go on a Ben and Woods cruise?
Ooh.
Ben, Woods, Paul, maybe a 97.3 The Fan cruise. We just get everybody on a boat.
I don't even know if I would want to go on the Ben and Woods
trapped on the boat several days.
I don't know. I've
nowhere
heard,
to escape, nowhere to go.
I've never heard a bad thing about a cruise, like from people that have gone on
You've
them.
never heard a bad thing about a
No,
cruise?
that's not what I said.
Okay.
From people that I personally know that have been on
Okay.
cruises. They've all had great times. I've seen horror stories from cruises.
I've been on one cruise in my life. We were all seasick the first night.
See,
It was-
I don't know. I've never been on a cruise.
It turned out okay in the next couple of days, but getting our sea legs was rough. This was a Disney cruise when I was like 12 or 13. Had to fly to Florida, cruise to the Bahamas and back, and we were all miserable that first night. It was like red-eye flight, get on a cruise. You just like sit down to the first meal, and you're down in like the dining room, and the ship is now like starting to chug out into sea, and you feel it going, but you can't see out the window, and you're like, it's like feeling car sick, but you're eating dinner at the same time.
I've been on boats. I've never
Not
gotten
good.
like seasick. I've never
Not
been on
good.
a big cruise ship or anything like that. I don't know that I'm cut out for a cruise. I just
But
don't.
you know, the amenities are nice.
It's
The
got
mi-
everything I want.
You
in
know,
a
I like a
vacation.
good midnight buffet. That's part of my
Yes.
likes. That's where that's what cruises are famous for. You get a midnight buffet. You get shows, and there's casinos at sea, because once you're out of port, international law applies, so they can open up the casino while you're out there. Yeah, you can have a lot of fun on a Ben and Woods or a Padres alumni cruise, perhaps. Well, Randy Jones would be there if there's a cruise. They will definitely have Randy will be there.
Yeah, 100%. Like I would do the yacht excursions. Like you ever watch Below Deck? It's a big chartered yachts.
Yeah.
I would do that. I don't know that I would do a cruise.
Yeah, a little more of a
Like
private
10 people
one.
maybe. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna send you the video. Someone, Adam in the chat said it's the Super Sports Cruise
All right, I'm gonna
SNL
have to go
skit.
watch
So I will try to send this to you.
I'll definitely watch that. And then finally, a lot of bee talk this morning. We talked about the 2-hour delay earlier in the show over in Arizona between the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. The game was delayed 2 hours due to a beehive forming on the netting there right before the game. 5 minutes before first pitch, they noticed the bees starting to swarm in there. I got a story here that is straight out of a horror movie, not the other one that Woods would probably be making a joke about right now. There was
Horror movie.
A 3-year-old in Charlotte recently was complaining about a noise that she kept hearing in her bedroom, and she was telling her parents, "I think there's a monster in my room."
It's an overactive imagination.
Yes.
There's no monster in your closet.
Kids always think there's a monster under the bed
course.
or a monster in the closet, and she's no, I really think that there's a monster in my room. And they gave her a flashlight to protect her from the monster, and they kept hearing something. And finally, they thought they could hear like a buzzing, and they thought maybe this is just the fan, the ceiling fan or something. Something's off, and let's get it figured out. And after looking into it a little bit more, they could definitely tell that there was something in the walls of this 3-year-old girl's bedroom.
The noise was coming from inside the house.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. And it turns out that they had like pest control come out and try to is there something in the rats get in the walls or something? What is going on? And they used like thermal heat to see what was behind the walls.
Infrared scan.
Dude, they estimated that there was a beehive so big in this little girl's walls, 60,000 bees living in the walls of her bedroom. They had to break the wall open, and they said it looked like a movie as thousands and thousands of bees just come flying through the hole in the wall. I was
she was not imagining
disturbed
the
reading
monster
the
in her room. It was definitely
dude.
real. Oh.
Since she and her husband contacted a beekeeper who noticed the insects were traveling towards the floorboards of the attic right above their daughter's bedroom. The bees had spent 8 months building the monster hive.
It had been there for most of the year before they realized it.
The thermal camera that was brought to scan the walls, they said it lit up like it was Christmas. Oh, God. Terrifying. absolutely terrifying.
Awful. All right, I've sent you the Super Sports Cruise clip. Let's play that when we come back. We'll also pay off the Incorporator if you missed it earlier. Jesse Agler trying to work the word, what was it, wrinkle?
Baggy wrinkle.
Baggy wrinkle into last night's broadcast. We'll have that for you coming up next after a check of traffic. Don't go anywhere. Ben and Paul on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Tim Flannery from the top deck tweeting in response to Woods and our discussion of Brian Kenny's insane Fernando Tatis Jr. comments yesterday on MLB Network, saying, I'd come out of working his show in great need of a double martini every single time. Ouch. Ouch. It's Ben and Paul wrapping it up. Last couple of segments here on a Wednesday. Good. Woodsy will be back tomorrow. So we found that clip. We were talking about the Raiders going to do a fan cruise, and I told Paul, this idea goes back decades. There has been baseball and sports teams cruises for a long time. Maybe they went out of fashion recently, but this is just reviving an old idea. In fact, it was so common that Saturday Night Live even parodied it back in the day with a Super Sports Cruise clip. And here's a little bit of this one. I would say this is probably from the early 90s.
This is Super Sports Tour's biggest baseball cruise ever. Over 700 major leaguers sailing with you and 11 other lucky guests. That's almost 70 players per passenger. It's 6 glorious days and nights through the beautiful waters of the Caribbean, including a stop in the Dominican Republic, where we'll be joined by the Dodgers' Ramon Martinez and the Astros' Andujar Cedeno. Don't miss this unprecedented opportunity. Prices start at $399. Space is limited on the ship. So don't delay. Call 1-600-HOME-RUN today.
We're on vacation, and you should be too.
Call now.
I think they listed about 70 other players in that skit as well. But, yeah, this is not a new idea of a sports cruise. I would go on one, though. I think it would be a lot of fun. Hang out with some ball players for a few days. You'd probably get tired of it after a little while, though.
Yeah, it's the idea of just being out in the middle of the ocean or something.
Trapped.
Kind of freaks me out.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go on a cruise.
Just kind of freaks me out.
It better be a really, really good cruise if you're out there. All right, yesterday was an Incorporator Tuesday. Jesse Agler joined us at 8:30, and we gave him the Incorporator word. And what was it? I keep forgetting it.
Baggy
wrinkle. Baggy was my word, too. Baggy wrinkle. It's a sailing term in which it's some soft material that you put around the lines, the rigging, to protect the sails, the baggy wrinkle. Now, Jesse kind of took it in a different direction. When David Bell was arguing balls and strikes between the 7th and the 8th inning and got ejected, he got pretty upset and ended up kicking a whole bunch of stuff on the field, including one of the donuts, and that's where Jesse saw his opportunity to get baggy wrinkle into the game.
1-0 pitch, Steer hits it hard but foul the other way out of play. He was ejected and he really got his money's worth. He was face to face with Blazer. At one point you could see Blazer pat his chest and say, I'm trying my best, which I guess is really all you can say if you're an umpire. 1-1 to Steer as Matsui kicks and deals. Pitch swung on and missed, strike 2. So Bell was out there, really got his money's worth, screaming, yelling, ranting, raving. 28th career ejection for David Bell. And then walking back to the dugout, the Reds, of course, have all their weights and rosin bags and stuff on their on-deck area, and Bell kicked them like a place kicker and knocked them all over the place. They had gotten out of their baggy wrinkle, and they were just sort of all sprayed about. And quite a show put on by David Bell. 1-2 to Steer, swung on and missed, strike 3.
So Jesse gets the Incorporator word in. I had an idea, and we're trying to always come up with twists on the Incorporator. And this may be too tough even for Jesse, as good as he is. I would come up maybe with a simpler word for him, but I would like at least once for the Incorporator to be used in a home run call. So, like a Padres player hits a home run, or like an RBI, like a key highlight to the game, and somehow get the Incorporator in to a moment that really matters during the game. Because oftentimes Jesse will throw it in during conversations with Tony Gwynn Jr. or Bob Scanlon, or, just an aside about the game. But to actually get it into a highlight that would be included in our Padres Wrap-Up the next day, I think that is what could really take the challenge to its final, ultimate level. An Incorporator in an actual game highlight.
Interesting. I love that.
Now, that may be tough. Jesse may say, hey, we don't want to mess with
you never know how many highlights you're going to get.
You don't. And Jesse may not want to mess with the integrity. And obviously, I don't think you could do baggy wrinkle in the middle of a highlight. But if you had just a word, kind of a normal but just offbeat word that Jesse could figure out a way, like on an RBI double.
We
or
lower the difficulty of the word itself, but we raise
the difficulty
stakes.
of where it has to be incorporated into the game, into an actual highlight that will make it onto the recap, onto like Sammy's post-game show highlights, or onto our Padres wrap-up the next day. That, I think, may be the next frontier of the Incorporator that we have yet to visit for Jesse Agler.
We have a really bad problem on this show, all three of us, of coming up with ideas that we like and then forgetting about them entirely.
That's
so
true.
let's actually try to remember that.
That's true. Well, Woods, help us remember, except he's not here today. Just a couple of details emerging yesterday. I haven't forgotten about the Ippei Mizuhara gambling investigation, even though Shohei pretty much has gotten off the hook based on everything that's come out so far, was not in the know, was just a victim of theft. The details are very interesting, Paulie. The story that emerged yesterday. So where was all this money going? These $500,000, basically wire transfers that Mizuhara was taking from Ohtani's account and sending to the bookie. How does this not raise massive red flags? How do they get away with it for so long? Obviously, they didn't get away with it forever.
How'd they get away with it once, let alone however many times it actually happened?
So some of the details that were emerging with the Boyer, who was the bookie, who was kind of at the center of this investigation, and he is yet to be charged, actually. But so what they do is he would take that $500,000 and he'd put it into his casino marker account at Las Vegas casinos, including Resorts World, which we were just talking about. I was just there a few days ago when I was visiting Las Vegas. And he would deposit into his account. Then he'd go gamble for a little while, win a little bit, lose a little bit. And then he'd cash it out in chips. And now he's got this extra $500,000 and he takes it out of the casino in cash.
Wow.
Now, sounds like a brilliant scheme. How are they going to keep track of that with the millions and millions that go through a casino every day?
Right.
Someone deposits $500,000. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. Obviously, if you win, you're going to walk out of there with some money. So he's just walking out with what it's his own money. Apparently, though, casinos are held to a higher standard, and they do need to be aware of their customers, their gamblers. Hey, you can't just close your eyes and go, I don't want to know where the money's coming from. They actually they are actually responsible for hey, if you've got a whale, one of these big, you can't just say, I don't care where the money's coming from. You actually have to do some research and background, and they've actually gotten into some trouble for allowing bookmakers to, it's basically money laundering. You've taken this $500,000, pretended it's your own, turned it into chips, and then turn it back into cash that you then walk out of the casino with. So a wire transfer from Shohei Ohtani then turns into a bag full of cash that you're walking out of Resorts World or a different casino on the Las Vegas Strip.
So are these casinos being labeled as affiliates with
a little bit, yeah. At least they're violating Nevada gambling regulations, if not laws. They are not following through with their responsibilities as a reputable gaming operation by letting people use their establishment to launder ill-gotten money from the sports betting trade. So, in case you were wondering, what actually happened to the money that Mizuhara was taking out of Shohei Ohtani's account, he would wire it to the casino, and then the guy in his account would say, okay, I'm going to bet my $500,000, and yeah, you might win or lose 10 or 20,000, and he'd say, okay, I'm done for the day, and he'd cash out his chips, and all of a sudden, then he'd walk out with $500,000 in Shohei Ohtani's cash that Ippei Mizuhara had lost in sports gambling. Wow. So it was fascinating to me to see how this whole thing was working, and eventually, the feds and everyone caught on to it, and that's why the investigation did get started. So those were some of the details that emerged yesterday. All right, we'll come back. Final segment. Want to look ahead to today's day game. San Diego Padres going for the series win over the Reds, and I believe Annie's going to check in for a little crossover on a Woodsless Wednesday. So Annie Halbrun going to be with us when we come back on our final segment of Men of Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. As if Paulie didn't have enough to do. We also have some Legion tickets to give away that I neglected to do earlier, but let's do it right now. They get a big game coming up this Sunday at Snapdragon Stadium. Sorry, Paulie. Dallas Jackals will be in town, and you can win a pair by calling right now, 833-288-0973. Paulie's choice on the caller.
Oh, thank you.
What would you like?
Fourth caller.
Fourth caller, says Paulie, 833-288-0973. Call now. You can get your own tickets for San Diego's rugby team at sdlegion.com. Legion have done well in their first couple of seasons. We can only hope that San Diego FC, our new MLS team, will do as well as they get started as the Seals have done in their first couple of seasons. And the Legion, it looks like the San Diego FC MLS team is going to be landing a major international soccer star, according to reports, including one in the UT. The team is in final negotiations to sign Mexican national team star Chucky Lozano to a contract. It would be maybe a $12 million transfer fee. He would transfer in from his current Dutch club, PSV Eindhoven. He would play there until January and then join the San Diego FC club next year to their start of their first MLS season. Now, this month, May, is the 2024 MLS season gets underway. It'll be the last one played without a San Diego team in town. 1 year from now, San Diego FC will be having their very first games at Snapdragon Stadium. And if all goes well, it looks like Chucky Lozano could be the star of that team, kind of our version of Messi here in San Diego. Would be the exempt player that doesn't count toward the salary cap, would be a big star that would be anchored, kind of a cross-border international star that the team would be kind of building around. And I'm not going to claim that I know everything about soccer, but the people who do are very excited about the possibility of San Diego FC already landing a star player before really they've signed a couple of other kind of young prospect type players, but for the most part, the major players will join next year when they have the expansion draft, and they'll build the rest of their roster. But this could be the signature piece already in more than a year out from their very first game. So some exciting news for soccer fans and San Diego FC fans. I really do want to get into the MLS. As I'll probably pay more attention this year than I ever have before, knowing that next year we're going to have our own team. So kind of as a prep season, like to see how it's all working and kind of the flow of the season. So we'll be ready to go when we get our team competing starting next May. All right, one last check of traffic, and then we'll do a little crossover. Annie Halbrin in the studio going to join us right after this traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by the Fish Market, serving the freshest catches from waters near, far, and everywhere in between. We're wrapping up our morning drive with just a couple of problems here. Some debris in middle lanes on southbound 805, just past El Cajon Boulevard. Still clearing a 3-vehicle accident from La Jolla Village Drive on-ramp to northbound 5. Does not appear to be blocking any lanes. It's time for Giving Sips. The Fish Market is donating $1 for every glass of J. Lohr wine and for every Cutwater Jungle Bird cocktail sold to Terry Campus of Life. Stop by the Fish Market in downtown or in Del Mar. The Fish Market, serving only the freshest catches. And Kelly Danick with Ben and Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, with Woods out, thought this would be a good time to do a little crossover check-in. We've got Annie from Annie and Elston here, who I need to thank personally for moderating last week's Roundtable Pizza Roundtable, when I was on vacation and out of town. How did that go, by the way, corralling all of the hosts here into something semi-coherent for an hour plus? I heard you actually had to do like an extra 5 minutes or so to get into the pregame show.
I said before that show last week, I go, who's got the tougher job in media and corralling a bunch of animals? Is it Ernie Johnson and all those guys on TNT, or Annie and the 97.3 crew? I think you had the tougher job.
I'm gonna go with me on that one.
Yeah.
Ben, Paul, great to be with you guys. Listening to the show this morning, great job by both of you. So I had a moment early on, like the first 5 minutes, where I went, oh no, this is just gonna go off the tracks. I'll never get it. And then everyone settled down. But there was the first 5 minutes that I was like, oh man. Now I know why Ben, he gave that advice of, hey, just know who to go to, know who to talk to. But no, everybody was great after that.
It's funny. You see everybody wanting to jump in and you get excited about it because, okay, this is a good topic. Everyone wants to sound off, but then they're all kind of leaning forward and ready to talk. And you're going like, oh, no, they're all going to speak at once. And what are we going to do here? This is going to devolve into chaos.
Yes. And
chaos.
I felt bad. And you do such a great job with it. And I'm so happy that you'll be back tomorrow.
Have to inflate his ego.
No, he did, but he really does, Paulie. It's a tough thing to corral, everyone.
Yeah.
Paul's just looking at me like, whatever.
Well, we'll be back tomorrow. You can go back to your normal role as, answering when I call upon you for tomorrow's roundtable. Got to say, if the Padres didn't find a way to win either last night or today, it was going to be a really bleak roundtable tomorrow. I mean, it's hard not to, just because of where the team has been the last couple of seasons and the disappointment for fans in 2021 and then 2023 especially, it's hard not to see the sky falling, even if it's not actually falling yet, and it is fairly early in the season, and some of these problems are the same kind of problems that every team will face over the course of the year. As Padres fans, when they lose 5 in a row, it feels like panic time. It really does. And I feel the same way. I understand it.
I can't blame fans for feeling like that. I really can't. You do get that sense of like, oh no, here we go again. There's shades of last year. It's funny too, talking to people in the clubhouse. Last year at this time was very much, no, we're going to get it going. It's all good. Everybody relax. Now they'll say, hey, we're in a tough stretch. We do have a sense of urgency in here. We know we've got to turn it around. So there is this awareness inside the clubhouse, as there should be, that we don't want to go down that road of last year.
I got caught up in it last year as well. I was so firmly confident that the talent will win out, that this team is too good to continue to struggle, that this is just a blip, momentary. This is funny almost. It was almost like I'm laughing, like, this is kind of funny that they're actually struggling a little bit because eventually they're going to dominate. They have too many good players, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. They're going to clobber opponents. They're going to have this month where they win 24 games, and we're going to laugh at the early part of the season, and then it never happened.
It never happened.
Now, of course, this year we don't feel the same way. We're not anticipating a giant run at any point. So the further they fall, the deeper they go under 500, the more it seems like, okay, well, this is the reality of this team this year. And I hope it's not, but I do have that worry like everybody else.
It does. It feels like the margin for error, and I heard Jesse say it on with you guys yesterday in a different way, right? But we've been saying it kind of since the season started too, is just, you don't want to get too far down because you're not sure if this is the right necessarily makeup of the team. By no fault of theirs, but just you lost a few players over the offseason. We're not really sure yet. It's a tough NL West, although it has kind of started kind of slow. But you just don't want to get too far back because you feel like there's other teams, too, that are going to be contending for that wild card spot. And you don't want to put yourself in that hole where you've got to suddenly run off some miraculous run or win every series from, a certain point to the end of the season, or put your fate in other teams where now they've got to lose in order for you to make it. And there's always a little bit of that, but the more you can control that and stay at least around that 500 mark. And honestly, they know all of that. Right. And I don't think that they're going out there and like, well, who cares? I really believe that they're going out there doing everything they can to win the game. Been a tough run, though. A tough run.
Yeah. Offensive struggles are the ones that stand out to fans the most when you have multiple games where you only score 2 and you don't come through with runners in scoring position. But I heard you and Craig talking yesterday. It really is the pitching that needs to get going. If this team wants to go somewhere, anywhere this year, they're going to need their top pitchers to step up and pitch like top pitchers. And yesterday, they got exactly what they needed from Yu Darvish. The 5 innings, that was huge. Yeah. Today, I think, will be just as big to see Joe Musgrove at least take a step forward. I'm not saying that he has to throw 8 shutout innings, but keep the Padres in the game. Be Joe. Be that bulldog. Give me at least 6, maybe into the 7th. If you give up a couple of runs, fine. Just give your team a chance to win the game and keep the ball in the yard if you can, or at most maybe one, but 4 home runs, multiple home runs. It just can't continue this way.
You're absolutely right. And what a huge start by you, Darvish. You know, Ben, both of you know, sometimes you go on the injury. It's to get your neck right, but sometimes it can also get you right. It can get you kind of mentally. Make sure you're cleaning up some other pitches that you maybe have been struggling with. Now, you, Darvish, did not mention any of that, but I've so many players that have come off the injured list have said before in the past, it helped me just take a step back, take a breather. These guys have had a weird spring training, a weird start to the season. You, Darvish, looked like you, Darvish, last night. He was in command. He was able to use a good mix of his pitches. Didn't seem like there was even a whole lot of exertion. You know, sometimes you just glides through those innings like he does. And so, and you know, it's good for Joe, and Joe has said it before, and he said it actually when you was on the injured list, it was kind of, you know, he was kind of bummed for obvious reasons, but also he likes to watch you go before him because they have similar types of pitches. They both have a lot of a variety of pitches, and he sees how he attacks the lineup. So good for Joe to be able to watch that from you tonight. Joe maintains he is not injured. There's been a weird start to the season. He's still trying to get the feel. He had a similar start when he came for the first month last season, but he was coming off of that kettlebell thing. He was coming off the different injuries. So, but he had an ERA over 6 his first 5 starts, and then he was able to lock it back in and cruise there for a while before he had the other injury hiccup. So, I'm not completely sold on the fact that this is an injury, but I think that what they want to do is try to look at, okay, let's get you right. Let's get you where you're feeling good, Joe, and then assess it from there.
Yeah, we always we look at injuries sometimes as black and white things. Either a guy is hurt or he's healthy. And usually the reality is way in between. He may be healthy, but he may also be still recovering from the after effects of an injury. And that's a whole different thing entirely. Or you may not be healthy, but it may not really affect you that much. And, it hurts, but hey, I'm still effective. I'm still throwing. So are you injured or are you not injured if you're effective? It's a much bigger gray area for these athletes than we as fans ever. Is he hurt or is he healthy? Both, probably. Always at the same time.
It's huge. It's such a great point. Like, there is this, bridge between injured list and purely healthy. And they're all dealing with some kind of aches and pains. But to the extent that Joe might be feeling something, or also remember, he had a weird season last year, coming off of that healthy off season. But now that you get thrown into Korea, they didn't have the normal spring training ramp up at all. They jumped right into pitching those 5 innings. They went 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 in Korea, when normally you go like 1, 2, you do 3 innings twice, 4, you do 5 innings twice. There's such a ramp up that's different than what they did this year. So it doesn't surprise me to see this rotation a little bit off. And in fact, it was pointed out to me that Dylan Cease is probably the only one not hit by that, and Waldron, because he didn't pitch in Korea. But Dylan Cease had kind of even though his spring training was shortened because he was with the White Sox, they treated his time in Korea and then his time in the exhibition games in San Diego afterward as spring training starts. So he had even a little bit more of a ramp up, the normal ramp up, than these other guys did. So I think that there's a few things to watch for with this rotation. And with Joe, absolutely, you nailed it. There's probably a sliding scale of where that injury is.
Well, you guys will be heading toward the EcoWater SoCal pregame show at 12:10 today with the 1:10 first pitch. So a little bit of a jam-packed show, I'm sure, for you guys, as you got to get everything in the next couple of hours with talking about yesterday's game, today's game, and everything else that's going on in the world of sports.
We're excited for it. 2 hours, we lead into that pregame show, and then Padres get a chance to... what did I say?
No, I don't know if you had a chance to yesterday. Did you get to talk about Brian Kenny's comments yesterday?
We talked about it a little bit, and then we shut it off.
That happened before the end of your show?
Yeah,
because we spent a lot of time on it this morning.
I'm so glad you did, because I found it so ridiculous. And I'm like, I know you got to fill space. I know you need to do things like that, but it was so... What are you doing? We're in April. Why are you talking about trading this guy? Why are you talking about one of the anchors of this team? Someone who, by the way, has already shown that coming back from that injury, from the injuries that he's had and the 3 surgeries, that he's been making the correct steps, gaining strength, had a normal offseason this last offseason.
The trajectory has been the right one that you've been looking for if you're the Padres. It's not red flags. He made it seem like, Fernando Tatis Jr. There's one giant red flag waving. He's not the same player. He's been progressing the way I think we all hoped he would, and the Padres are hoping he would. It was just one of the dumbest conversations I've seen on television in a long, long time.
It really was. And I just really believe that, like, you asked the question, how does it get up the how does it get up the chain? Someone's got to approve that. Someone's got to say, hey, let's build graphics for that.
That's what I was
right.
saying.
Right?
Like, yeah. Directors,
no one
producers,
stops for a second and goes,
yes.
Does this make any sense to anybody at all here? Are we just letting Brian just, continue with his vendetta against the Padres for some reason?
Hey, Padres fans are a bunch of suckers. Let's rile them up. Like, it made no sense. It was so stupid.
Right.
Let's just get some clicks, guys. Let's just get some clicks. Low-hanging fruit.
Annie, have a good show today. Get the Padres, get everybody ready for a win, hopefully, today. Yeah. And then full tomorrow with a roundtable as well at the end.
With the roundtable and Ben hosting.
And Woods will be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. Paulie, great job wearing multiple hats
today.
Thank you, sir. For Paul Reindl, I'm Ben Higgins. Annie and Elston coming up next. Have a great rest of your Wednesday from all of us here at San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.